right now.
Let's see what we got here.
Doing Facebook right now.
Is it like a teardrop, like teardrop shape?
What do you mean?
The remote itself, is it like teardrop shape or what is it like a teardrop, like teardrop?
Kind of. Like I said, I got 2 more of them. I just need to make them work.
Okay.
Because I couldn't even start the Jeep today a couple different times. A couple times I was in it. It told me it couldn't find the fob. It won't lock. It won't unlock. Remote start doesn't work.
Yeah.
I was driving. It told me that the key fob was not in the vehicle. It's a shit show. And I'm going to get stuck somewhere. I'm not going to be able to move because I can't get anything to work.
Huh.
We went out petitioning today, and that just took a really long time. Way longer than it should have taken. And just one of those days. Nothing's really quite working right.
My friend who sells the cameras, you could probably do, the thing with the key fob, get a. I mean, I could possibly do it.
Supposedly there's a batteries plus right somewhere close to where I work.
Oh, okay.
I'll try to go there. If I can't go there, I'll stop it. And they're open till 7 o'clock. I should be able to go there. Oh my God in heaven, come on. Jesus. Now the screen for the iPad won't respond.
They have them at Home Depot. They have them at Walgreens.
What's the other reason this iPad's gonna end up getting replaced? The screen is just non-responsive. Pin to top. Absolutely non-responsive sometimes.
And they have them at Lowe's. So.
Start sharing. It's just not what I did, folks. It's just not what I did. Take what, Mike?
Okay.
Tell you what, I'm starting to think somebody's in my Facebook. This search stuff just shows up here that I didn't look for. Now it keeps a little backup of the stuff that you've searched. There's stuff in here I've never looked for. I've never looked it up. I'm using this because the screen is non-responsive. Some expensive stuff coming down the pike. We might be chatting a lot to each other tonight, George, because our guest is mobile in the hinterlands of the Commonwealth.
Oh.
Chance he's going to have little or no signal. He's out in Bradford County and then going to Armstrong County and then to Tioga. So he is out there.
I may have to pop off for a couple of minutes. My
That's fine.
client is coming to pick up his
when we scheduled this
mold stuff.
I don't think any of us thought that petitions was going to be this much of a crap show. It is. No, what I'm saying, when I scheduled this with Brian, I don't think anybody thought this was going to be this much of a crap show, this petition thing, and now he's scrambling just like everybody else. Except the other side is not scrambling. They're not. Because they just fall in line like soldiers.
Did you want to make me co-host? So if he comes in, I can grab him. Please. Thank you.
I think he might not be here till 5:30. That's me trying to use the mouse with my left hand. Wait, that was not pretty. It was really not pretty. Like trying to eat with my right hand, trying to draw with it. That was frightening. Anyway, all right, 4 minutes, 5 minutes ish. Into sharing mode now. Come on, come on, come on. Interesting side note for those of you who might be in pre-show. We had a record number of rejections of my show announcements. Right out of the gate, we had about a half dozen rejections, all within a very few minutes. Groups that have never rejected the program or a show announcement before. So I have absolutely no explanation for that except possibly who our guest is. I hope that's not it. I found it very interesting.
I believe it's the meta algorithm.
Well, some of them came in so quick they may have been some form of automatic. No, they might have been some form of automatic.
No, the automatic rejection.
But I think somebody, the notification that you get is that an administrator did it.
Oh,
So that's that was interesting. I found that quite interesting. Okay, now we're doing groups. Just got a message from Brian. I can't read it at the moment. Doing this. I will lose my place. Pay attention.
did we ever hear from Franz?
Franz is on a road trip.
Okay.
He's currently
He's okay though.
in Florida.
Oh, okay.
But yes, he is well, and he is having what looks to be a really, really good time. He's having a
That's
better
good.
time
He
than
deserves
me.
that.
I can tell you that. He's having a better time than me. But yeah, he took this long road trip, and
So what happened with our revolution last week? I tried getting in and I guess there was nobody on. Did you try getting in? Were you able to get in?
which night?
Last Sunday.
I think they either didn't have one or it was just really short. I don't know, because by the time
It was like
kind of
8,
got
I think it was like
myself
8:30, almost 9 when we tried getting in, yeah.
by the time I tried to kind of got myself together to get in, it was almost 9.
Okay.
And it looked like they had either ended or just didn't have one. I'm not really sure.
Possibly because Franz was on the road and was not in it. So if he was in it, I guess
Well, it's not nearly as cool when he's not in it. Holy crap, it's 5:01.
it's true.
All right, I need to hit. We will. Hold on. 3, 2, 1.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome. 5:03 Eastern Time here in Bethlehem Landfill Township. Yeah, that's right, Bethlehem Landfill Township, a wholly owned subsidiary of Waste Management following their outright purchase of our township council, formerly known as Lower Saucon Township, here in the Bellwether County of all the counties in the country, Northampton County, in the Lehigh Valley, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only planet we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live for the 6th of March, and it does indeed feel like spring outside here in our humble valley for the 6th of March 2022. So if I sound or look or just appear generally to be a bit disheveled, you are correct, because we are having a day here at the homestead. I am having car issues. Kristen and I were on the phones trying to get line up petition signatures. That didn't quite go as we had planned. The weather went from, I think, the 30s this morning up to almost 70. It's actually humid outside. I dressed wrong for it and pretty much soaked through my clothes. We had errands to run. I actually did manage to clean the house, though, and squeeze in a load of laundry. Kristen has been battling a whale of a headache. I have been not as much, but close. And then I heard from our guest, and I will get to that in just a second. If you are from the Commonwealth, you know that our this election season with redistricting and court cases and district maps and voter registration rolls, the continuation of the big lie, and so on and so on and so on, has really made our election cycle, I don't generally swear on the program, has made it a you-know-what show, has made it an absolute bowl of shite, a steaming pile, as it were. So our guest is on the road, traveling between petition signing and gathering events. Now he's going to be here. I couldn't tell you from where. I don't know if it will be over the phone. I don't know if we will have video. I have no idea. But he is out in the hinterlands, if you will, with all due respect to the folks out there. I think they would probably agree to some extent. He is in Bradford County, traveling to Armstrong County, and then will probably end up the night in, I believe he said Tioga County. So he is out there, kids. He is out in the wilds, if you will, of the Commonwealth. So we will just wait for him to join us. Among the technical issues we are having, we had some internet issues. This is why we start early. I had internet issues even before George got here, and I solved them, and he should be quite happy with that. But even that said, I managed not to punch something or throw something or just take a hammer to it. But we're up and running now. So we had that. And one of the things that our phone system, as it were, it really isn't a system, it's a free piece of software, as I've described to you in past weeks. Kind of one of the things that needs to work and work better, and actually I think work through the computer properly, is I need to forward my mobile phone to the Google number. Well, I have been waiting for a good 10 minutes or so for the call forwarding in my own phone to work and allow me to forward that number. So at the moment, I do not believe we can take your calls. I might be able to if you dial the number anyway. I am not certain of that, to be honest. It also might be that if I do it, if I send it to you, or wait, no, I think my phone might go bonkers, to be honest. I think that's the thing. Yeah, I think I have that right. Can you see the smoke coming out of my head while I try to figure this out for myself? That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. I'm figuring things out as we go. And just being out trying to get these silly petitions it's done in my head. I can't, it's just, I was never a fan of that kind of thing anyway, but I understand why you have to do it. I really do. The petition gathering exercise is kind of, it forces you to, how should I say? It forces you to go get your signatures, obviously, and it forces you to, I can't even send the app. It forces you to get your signatures, but it forces you to literally walk your territory and meet the folks in your territory. And, and that's a good thing. But when all of these folks, courts, and lawyers and litigants and all of these things kind of get in the way, it does make a hell of a circus out of it. And that's really been, it's been something to behold. And even though I enjoyed the what we had to do to get the what we had to do to get this today, I guess I just didn't think it would be that difficult. Even though I did enjoy it. I mean, we had some, Kristen and I were fortunate enough to have some lovely, wonderful conversations with the folks that we were able to meet in person. And even one person who was kind enough to get to call back and say that we couldn't she wasn't around for us to get a signature, but was kind enough to call back, and then we had a wonderful conversation, and it was just great, and it's a good thing, and I get it, but it was odd to me how difficult it was, especially on a nice day. Folks were out to talk, and it was just strange. Anyway, I did not do the business end of the program. Why don't I get to that? We are the Kennedy Effect, and live for the 6th of March. We're already in March 2022, wherever you may be on Facebook. And I believe we have shared to, we'll give you an update on that, folks. We have shared to 97 different places around the Facebook universe. We thank you. We thank every single group, every single individual that has allowed us to share our program with you today. And I'm going to make that 98 right now. I just thought of another place I needed to send it. But anyway, it's so I needed to do that. But that said, wherever you might be on the Facebook universe, to all of the wonderful groups that allow us to share this program, and I do mean it, we're exceptionally grateful to every single individual, every single group, national page, friend, family, wherever. If you take in the show on your own Facebook page and you share it there, and you share it to friends and family, and you tag people, we're exceptionally grateful. We couldn't do this without you. If you weren't listening and watching, we couldn't do it without you. So to all of you across the Facebook universe, thank you for being part of our program again this Sunday. Wherever you might be watching, you can stay right there and continue to watch and listen. Whatever group or page or personal page or whatever or national page that you might be on, please continue to stay, enjoy, listen there. However, if you wish to be part of the program and interact with us, as I've already done with a decent number of folks in the chat already, we need you to come. It's right there on the screen. I'm pointing to the square as if I was pointing, as if it looks the same on your screen. I don't think it does, but I'm pointing to it. That other side of information is our home group Facebook page. That other side of information. Please, please, please come on over and see us there. And if you put your comments and questions in the chat, we will see them, we will talk to you, and we will just interact with you. It's one of the things about this program that I beg you to do every single week, is to interact with us. We don't like to lecture at you. So interact with us, call on the phone, send me a question, send me a comment, whatever it might be. To our sisters and brothers and friends and family at hot101.net, do you have the brand new hot101.net apps? Plural, he said. The Apple App Store, the Google Play Store for Android, both of those apps have been updated. If you have the old app, which I just tried to share with our guest while he's driving, it doesn't work anymore. Go to the new one. It looks really completely different, and it's actually really quite excellent. And I'm realizing now why I should have sent my picture to Earl to put up because I am a gray. That's my face. It's actually, I look better on the app than I do in real life. But that's what I get for not sending my picture to Earl so that he could upload it for me. My fault. So I look like a musical bar is what I look like. I look like a note. But arguably, I look better. You can listen to hot101.net very, very easily. Our website is our name. It's hot101.net. Again, Apple App Store for Apple devices, Google Play Store for Android devices, and both of those apps have been completely redesigned, and they are exceptionally simple to use. You now get pictures and artwork and artist names, DJ names, contacts, all that stuff. It's fantastic. Check it out. And of course, America's favorite game show, Can Jeff Turn On Your Alexa? You can say, hey, Alexa, play hot101.net. Oh, and I also should not have skipped over the fact, if you have any other type of device, a Fire, an LG, a Motorola, whatever it might be, other type of phone, go to the TuneIn radio app, search for hot101.net, and you can listen to us there. There is not a device on the planet that you can't hear us. So if we are on your laptop, desktop, smart speaker, whatever it might be, you can find us, and we thank you for being there. And of course, our family at TCP, the Cultured Professional from Lancaster, proud to be part of their family, WTCP Internet Radio, and the TCP Facebook group, Facebook page, and Roku channel. Something I want to throw out there briefly, very briefly, our third, well, no, it's actually, which anniversary is it when you're completely done with 3 full years? It's the 4th anniversary, right? Don't you add a number? No, it's your 3rd anniversary. We'd be starting our 4th year. Our 3rd anniversary is actually April 17th. And that's kind of neat because that was actually the original air date of this program, April 17th, 2019. I just did math in my head. Did you see it? Did you see the eyes go? I did math in my head. So our 3rd anniversary is actually April 17th, and April 17th actually falls on a Sunday, except that it's Easter Sunday. So we will probably, what my goal is and what I intend to do is to send out a very mass email messenger something to invite every single person that has ever been on the program and invite them to pop in on us on that day. But except it won't be that day because it's Easter. So we don't normally do a program on a high holy holiday like Easter. So it'll probably be the week after. But I throw that out there to all of you who are loyal listeners. If you have ever been a guest on this program, I will try to contact each and every one of you. Or George and I will try to put that list together, see if we can get all the names, and we will contact everybody and invite them to come celebrate with us, which would be on I will tell you what day that was or is. Yeah, the 17th is Easter, so we don't want to do that. The 24th is Orthodox Easter, sweetheart. Would you not like to do a program on there? You Orthodox and you're week late. All your holidays are a week late. I don't get it. I thought it was 2 weeks late.
Well, we are standing in solidarity with the Ukrainians.
Well, that's true. We may have to do it on the 24th. So there is that. I think I have covered everything. Let me check to see if my call forwarding is working. It doesn't appear.
Well, while you were doing that, I was going to go back to one quick thing, which
yes, because there was a question about it. Understand, Judy mentions, understand with petitions, people have closed doors on me and given me every excuse there is. Some have at least said I need more information. Oh, they get a little wonky. They think you're asking for too much information, I think sometimes too. Yeah, you're right. And I do think, look, I understand the process. I understand the point of it. As you and I were talking about earlier when we were trying to follow the GPS, getting lost, trying to find these homes. A lovely senior lady that you had a chance to speak to was happy to sign for us. I got to her house and she didn't answer the door. I understand the process. I understand that you cannot just willy-nilly and lightly just throw yourself out there that you're going to run for office. You kind of have to work for it. And I understand the vetting process that kind of comes with the petition process, and I've done it before. I did it way back in the day, back in the Stone Age, before we had walk lists and call lists and vote builder and van and all that fun stuff. But it is a frustrating process. Wow, is it a frustrating process? Boy, if it was cold or raining today, I would have really been in a mood.
And hey, I did it in 2020, and I did it in 0 temperatures, and it is not fun. It is hard, but on the flip side of it, I would say to all the listeners out there, I would urge you that if you're a registered member of the Democratic or even the Republican Party, this is petition time. Both parties are doing it. If you're a registered member of your party, you can sign a petition for a candidate. And right now, they are circulating petitions for Congress, governor, lieutenant governor. We were circulating petitions ourselves for county committee. Yes, if you want to be on the county committee as a precinct committee person, you have to be elected to that position. You get elected in the primary, your name appears on the ballot. And in order to do that, you have to collect 10 signatures, which is not nearly as difficult as, let's say, a member of Congress who needs to get 1,000. And your opponents can challenge your signatures and try to knock you out the ballot. So realistically, if you need 1,000 to get on the ballot, you need 1,500 to be safe.
Mhm.
And so please go to your committee's web pages in your area, find a petition signing, drop by. It takes maybe 3 seconds, or 30 seconds. You basically sign your name, print your name, put your address, put where you vote. Like we live in Lower Saucon Township, so we'd put Lower Saucon, and then you mark the date that you're signing.
It's
Now,
still
we should say
legally, it's still Lower Saucon. We know different.
that is the process of how signing a petition goes in Pennsylvania. So please, if you're outside of PA, check your
Thank you.
state's
You beat
regulations.
You beat me to it, because for our listeners around the world who may not have any clue what we're talking about, probably best just to somewhat ignore it. Although I'm sure in foreign countries you do the petition process as well. You probably have to get signatures to get on the ballot. I know for a fact the UK does that. And if you're outside the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, your petition dates
are different.
And if you're having the redistricting court problems that we're having here in the Commonwealth, you might be doing as we are doing here, collecting for some offices but not for others. You may have different requirements for the number of signatures you need for a certain given office. Kristen and I only need 10 for the local and county committee. Combined, it's just 10. However, as you said, if you're a member of Congress, it's 1,000. Statewide offices have different numbers, and even though the petition time period seems to have been cut, they didn't cut the signatures. They didn't make it any easier. So I do understand the theory behind it, the reasoning behind it, but boy, wow, sometimes you just kind of think, when you're in the midst of it, you just kind of think this is an awful lot of trouble to do something, to run for something that no one else wants to run for anyway. But then again, to look on the bright side, we had a lovely conversation with everybody that we met today, and got to meet Jake the dog, who was awesome.
Jake was awesome.
Jake was a big 10-year-old chocolate lab.
Beautiful
and
chocolate
boy, as the folks mentioned, he, if we get a second chance round at life, I hope it's like Jake.
I would also say, from the perspective of a voter, like when I had voters say to me, tell me about the candidate, I loved that, because that is you as a registered voter exercising your impact on the party and the process. You get to, as a signee on a petition, say, yes, I want this person on the ballot. Now, granted, there's some people who are, diehard members of the party who you open the door, you hand the petition, they're like, yeah, sure, just tell me what I'm signing and where. But it is your shot in a small way to have an influence on the direction of the party. I mean, if you're a Bernie supporter, people had to sign petitions to get Bernie on the ballot. There isn't a politician in this country that didn't have to file petitions in some
Right.
state somewhere.
And it's interesting too, because the couple that we spoke to, Jake's parents, remember she said, well, even though he's been active in the party in the past, his wife seemed to be taken back by the fact that a sitting member of Congress, an incumbent, still had to go through the petition process.
Yes, they do.
And quite frankly, I think that's an excellent thing. It's an equalizer. Incumbency brings so much privilege and so many built-in advantages, but you still have to go through the petition process. If our local, oh yeah, she actually is local. If our local member of the United States House of Representatives, Susan Wild, does not get 1,000 signatures, she's not on the ballot. It doesn't matter that she's been in the House for the last 4 years. She's not in, period. She don't get on the ballot. And it is a bit of an equalizer. Now, generally, petition signing for an incumbent is much easier. They usually have money if they need to pay people to go get signatures for them.
Your petitions from the previous cycle.
You have, right, you know who to go to. You also generally do not have a primary. So you can concentrate on just getting those petitions, getting on the ballot for both the primary and general, and on and on and on. But the fact that you still have to do it, I guess, you can easily make an argument is a bit of an equalizer. If you are like some of these members of the House who've been there for 20 and 30 and 40 years, you still have to go get petitions signed. If you're Patrick Leahy of Vermont and you have been in the Senate for, I think, 52 years now, he is the single most senior member of the Senate, and I want to say it's 52 years. He still has to go get petitions every 6 years to get on the ballot. It is a bit of an equalizer. So
now I will say that, I mean, there are some states that have done away with petitioning, and you pay a flat, filing fee. I think in a lot of states it's around $100 to $200, and then boom, you file your paperwork as a candidate and you're on the ballot. There are some people who've made good arguments for that. My pushback on it always is, at least by having petitions, if I wake up tomorrow and say I want to run for the state house, I want to be a state representative, that means I have to get 250 good signatures to get on the ballots. Realistically, I need 500 signatures. I have to go talk to 500 people who can look at me and see and judge whether or not if I'm rational and seem like I know what I'm talking about, and convince them to sign my petition.
That's that weaning, narrowing down process that I was talking about. I mean, you can't just roll off the couch, drop your video game controller, wipe the Cheeto dust off you, and go run for office. You got to put some work into it. And like I said, it's some of both. It has its strengths and weaknesses. And look, we're in it, so we're in it. What was I going to?
Yeah, last point I would
check to see if my call forwarding was still working.
Last point I would make is it also makes you learn your district, as you said earlier. It forces you to start knocking doors early on before the primary, because if you don't, you're not on the ballot. So.
No, and the conversations that we had today were wonderful, and we'll continue to have them, we hope, through the week. It is a challenge if you work a full-time job, though.
Oh yeah,
it is a hell of a challenge. I don't quite know what time you and I are going to be able to spend on this the rest of the week. And if I'm not going to get home till 7-8 o'clock every night this week, I can't. That's a rough thing to go then start dialing people and bothering them and whatnot. It's just going to be a thing. But whatever.
Realistically, you should stop. Don't knock somebody's door from like 6 to 7. They're eating dinner, and don't knock their door after 8.
But we'll see when I get home and make some more phone calls, and hopefully it'll just be a matter of getting the phone call, getting the commitment, and going and picking it up. Our guest will be here. Brian Sims is our guest this week. I've been trying to get Brian on the program for a really long time. He is traveling currently because he is driving all over the Commonwealth to gather his signatures. When he gets to a static location and gets himself a good signal, he will be joining us. So when you saw a show announcement, Brian Sims, I did not lie to you. He will be here. It is simply a matter of petitions kind of taking over the day for him. I have no doubt. He did call me earlier that he had planned to be in a static location with a solid connection, camera, the whole deal at 5, and then the day just did what the day did. He's scrambling around picking up petitions. So he will be here. You have my word. For now, it is 5:32 Eastern Time. You are watching and listening to the Kennedy Effect live for the 6th of March. I was going to say the March of 6th, which is not exactly what I meant, but kind of, but backward. What is the Ides of March? Isn't that 5th? So we're past the Ides, isn't it? Yeah. We survived the Ides of March, you and me.
Yeah. Caesar
Fantastic.
didn't. But
Well,
did.
no. The Caesar Sportsbook did well, but not Caesar himself. So it's the 6th of March, 2022. Wherever you might be. Oh, Judy says the 15th. Oh, it was the 5th.
Oh, well, I am off.
I always say every show, if you can correct me in the chat, go for it. Judy, point for you. The point
Good
means
job,
point means absolutely nothing. There's no monetary value to it. You didn't win anything, but you get a point. Punch if we have a frequent listener punch card, I will punch one out for you. You got I don't know what you get when you fill out the card either. Maybe a free pizza or something. But thank you. I love being corrected when I'm wrong because I like to be accurate. Yeah. So even on something as simple as that. So it's the 15th. Now I know. That said, wherever you are on Facebook, stay right there. Enjoy, or come on over to our chat. That other side of information, hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, brand new, redesigned, fully functioning, beautiful apps. And for any other type of device, the TuneIn radio app, go up to the search bar, search for hot101.net. It works everywhere, desktop, laptop, tablet, phone, Bluetooth in your car, however you decide to do it. Smart headphones, even anywhere you decide to use it, it works. You can tell Alexa to play hot101.net and TCP from Lancaster. The phone line is open. I will try it. We will see how it goes. It may or may not work. I honestly do not know at this point because I cannot seem to forward the phone. That is just a test, so I can hear you if you ring. Hopefully I will hear it and see it and be able to answer for you. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The line is open. I should hear it or see it if you call, but I cannot forward this phone to save my big bum. Can't save it. Let me also remind you of a couple different things that I have not talked about in past programs recently. If you ever miss any of this program, youtube.com, that other side of information. We are also on Instagram and Patreon. And I forgot to do a TikTok video because I was running out of time. And that is everything for that other side of information. You can tweet me at that Kennedy Talk. Nobody ever tweets me, but you can if you want. And also a couple of appeals for you while we are waiting for Brian to join us. And some things, again, that I have not mentioned to you for quite a number of weeks. We do not make any money on this program. In fact, I am well in the hole, thousands and thousands of dollars in this program. I do not ask you to just hand over money to me for my beautiful dulcet tones or my handsome face. But because we want you to be vested and be part of the program, you can do that two ways. If you have a product, a service, a business, if you are your business, your whatever it might be, You're a plumber, you're an artist, you're a consultant, you're a financial person, you're selling insurance, whatever it might be, you can advertise on this program. Don't let the political nature of the program scare you. Democrats buy things. Trust me, they do. We don't have the money that the other ones do, but we buy things. Just drop us an email, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, and let's talk about how we can promote you and your business and your art or your trade or your firm, whatever, through this program. Also, patreon.com. You can subscribe to the program financially. $100 a month, $1,000 a month? No, some of the subscriber levels are as low as $1. And all it does is help us recoup cost, help George and I look into better software to bring the program to you. We're not making a mint over here. I guarantee you, Kristen and I are not traveling the world on your Patreon dollars, but we hope you will consider becoming a vested financial part of the program. Waiting on Brian Sims. Something is in my, oh, George, had to walk away. No problem. No problem. He's probably probably getting some dinner. Actually, George built a computer for somebody. He's coming in, picking it up. But Brian will be with us. Let me talk a little bit about what is obviously the biggest story of really the last 2 weeks, and that is the war continues. If there is anyone out there who is a little bit overdone or sick of, to use the phrase, the Russian-Ukrainian war, I would beg you to reconsider. Even though cable news channels do better when there's a war on, it really does draw eyeballs to the TV. I know I have watched, I wouldn't say I've watched cable news more than I did previous to hostilities breaking out, but it does bring eyeballs to the TV, and it is why the cable channels cover it the way that they do. Don't let that get lost in the seriousness of this story or of this war. Please remember that we are talking about the first really full-scale European ground war since VE Day at the end of World War II. This is not a small thing. This is a big deal. And the humanitarian part of this continues to only get worse. This is not about Russia simply claiming some Ukrainian territory or taking the territory that is best suited to grow wheat or barley, or to run a pipeline through, or even take the lithium, because I believe there are some lithium deposits underneath the Ukraine. This really, as you look at it, and if you have been watching on the cable news and been watching the goings on, if you will, of this war, this is a genocide. And I know some folks even might think the word genocide is a bit hyperbolic, but this is, in my estimation, a full-blown genocide, not just of the people, the Ukrainian people themselves, even the Russian-speaking Ukrainian people themselves. It is a genocide of borders. It is a genocide of culture. It is the attempt to erase a nation from history and erase its borders and its culture and erase a people right from the face of the earth. This is, if this was just about land, I think Mr. Putin and Russian forces would have been happy taking the provinces of the Donbass and been done. He's already stated this is more than that. And he's also stated he might not be done once he takes it.
And it's not new. I mean, my dad's family is Ukrainian, so my grandpa would kind of talk off and on about that. And as I got older and as my brother got older, we asked him questions about his father and why his father came to the United States in 1912. His father came to the United States fleeing the coming Russian Revolution, the Red Army. The story that the Kremlin is trying to spin, that Ukrainians are a lot of like Russians, and they are a lot like Russians, but that they have no problem just being absorbed into Russia, that they have no independent identity, that they don't have any independent history, is a lie.
And proving to be profoundly false.
Stalin tried to starve the country into submission to keep it in the USSR and killed 4 million people. When Ukraine left the Soviet Union, that was essentially the last nail in the coffin, and the Soviet Union was done. It's fought for centuries to be independent and to be a country in its own right. And the Russians don't want to let it go because, as you said, it has resources. It's called the breadbasket.
It was always referred to as the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. The Ukraine fed the Soviet republics, fed them all.
Yeah.
And now the majority of that wheat goes to China, which makes an interesting, I don't want to say conflict, but it is somewhat ironic as the Chinese have sat back and watched this all. And look, see, you can't.
I'll be the first person to say that there are issues in Ukrainian society. There have been corruption issues in the past within the government, and Zelensky was seen as a breath of fresh air on that front. There is some bigotry. There are reports of, African citizens who were in Ukraine to study, who are being denied spots on the trains. There are issues in Ukraine just as there are issues in our country or in Britain or any other country. But Ukraine, as a country, is committed to democracy and to a democratic system of government. And then Russia is not. And Russia is trying to obscure this by putting out propaganda that the country is run by Nazis when the Ukrainian president is Jewish. I mean, it's almost laughable. And I think it's further laughable because the Kremlin has cracked down in a draconian way to prevent their own people from getting independent news other than from the state media. And they're even reportedly moving mobile crematoriums so that Russian soldiers who are killed will be cremated and will never go home to try to hide the number of people who died.
Comment from Judy, who corrected me over the Ides of March. You smart aleck, you, Judy. I am Ukrainian as well. I was raised Ukrainian, Greek, Catholic, and educated in a school that we were taught to read, write, and speak the language. The Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church was just allowed to only practice the religion in 1989, again after the fall of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was profoundly secular. It cracked down on religion on a regular basis. Religion has only, since the fall of the Soviet Union, made a resurgence in Russia itself, and even that, not to a huge extent. The Pope has traveled there. Of course, St. Basil's is one of the iconic buildings that kind of embolizes
Nicholas
Moscow.
II is now a saint,
and so on. But there's that. There's something else that I wanted to mention as we continue to wait for Brian. And he's just driving. He's not blowing us off. He's been texting me the whole time. He's just driving, trying to get to a good location. I did want to mention this as well. And we will take your phone calls if you want to try to give us a ring. I believe I will see it and hear it. Hopefully it'll run through the computer the way it's supposed to. because
And
I haven't been able to
hats-
forward the number, but I do get calls from this number, by the way, during the week. So
Yeah.
Google sells the phone number, so it should work, and I should see it, and I should be able to hear you, and the radio on it should be able to hear you. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. I challenge, very cordially, fun sort of challenge a lot of you in the chat, the regular listeners, to pick up that phone, take the extra step, and give us a shout. 267-227-9189. Thursday.
I was just gonna say we want to hear Judy speak
Yeah,
Ukrainian.
Judy, we want to hear you speak Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Hats off to Judy, because that is wow. Any Cyrillic language is. I thought, I'm going to embrace my heritage and learn Ukrainian and Russian.
No, it's a violent language. It's a very.
It's beautiful. I just felt like I was banging my head against the wall because I have
I
zero
find-
aptitude for learning languages.
I know that I know some people, everything is subjective. But I happen to find it's a rough language. It's a tough language. Area code 570. You are on the air. Thank you for calling the program. Your first name and where are you calling from, please?
You challenged Judy to call.
Yeah, Judy, atta girl.
Yay!
Get in there.
Although my Ukrainian language has kind of dissipated since my great grandparents have passed, I could still say some of the Our Father, and I could still greet in Ukrainian Greek Catholic like Slava Isus Christou, and you would say Slava Naviki, and right now it's Slava Ukraine. That's glory be to Ukraine.
Judy, do you still have family in Ukraine?
Not
Even
that
if they might be
not that
distant?
I'm aware of, but our
Okay.
ancestors came from right outside of Kiev.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my great grandfather was born 15 miles outside of Kiev.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
Wow.
I live right now in Dixon City, which is right outside of Scranton.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly the name of the town. I'd have to check with my dad. But yeah,
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
have you been watching this? Is probably a dumb and obvious question, but have you been watching all of this with dare I say, an extra sense of urgency, or if that's the right wording?
yeah, I've been glued and watching and praying a lot of prayers. I don't know what else we can do because anything greater, I think we're really going to start a major war, and I think Putin's just
Well, let
playing
me
the chess.
ask you that. Since you have this added sense of identity to it, and you have been watching all of it, I happen to agree with this consensus, but I still find myself torn over it. If the United States and or NATO was to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine, it will 100% put us in direct fire with Russian forces, which
I agree.
I absolutely believe will be a third world war, or at a minimum, and I say that lightly, a full continental ground war in Eastern Europe if it doesn't spread to Western Europe. So where do you fall on this as an American citizen, but also as a person of Ukrainian descent? In fact, you might even be within the time frame of dual citizenship. What say you about the United States stepping up pressure and quite potentially entering hostilities, direct fire with Russian forces?
I'm very torn because I agree with you. I think that would start a major war. I agree with what Biden's been doing, sanctions and sanctions and sanctions. I think we've got that one sanction left about the oil, and I think after that, there is no choice.
Do you think the United
That's what-
States is sending enough aid to Ukraine, both military and humanitarian? Because I don't.
I think we could send more. I really do. I
When
think
you
we could spend
spend
more.
when you
No, I
spend
can't.
about $800 billion a year on the Defense Department, and Senator Sanders will tell you that it's closer, really, in real dollars, it's closer to $1.3 trillion on the Department of Defense every single year, and we're sending, one F-22 is, I think, almost $300 million, and we're sending appetizers, not meals, to Ukraine, 300 million here, 500 million there. Why are we not just sending about 10 to 20 billion dollars worth of stuff now and stop goofing around with this? That's the part I'm a little torn about. And I'm torn with you too, Judy, about the no-fly zone. There was an exchange of fire between American troops and Russian troops directly in Syria. And many of the Russian experts seem to believe that President Putin remembers that, because if I have the story correct, it's about 100 to 110 U.S. Special Forces that came under fire from 700 Russian troops and wiped them out, and the Americans didn't even take an injury. And supposedly Mr. Putin remembers that and was very embarrassed by it. And I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger story in this country, especially given the large swaths of the United States that seem to just swim in military heroism, even though they've never been a part of it. But to put us in direct fire, it is kind of, what do you think, Judy? Is that kind of where the country, where the whole country is right now? Don't you think, like, we should do more, but?
Exactly. Yeah. Do more or but. Because like I said, it will just lead to a continual battle, and Putin does not want to give up. He's still pissed when the Soviet Union got released, whatever, and Ukraine got its independence, and he wants that back.
And I think that's where part of the one of the frightening parts comes in, because if NATO goes in full force and he begins to lose territory in big chunks, that's when you press the button.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Oh, they think they're gonna.
On that button.
They think they're gonna beat me. I'll leave them nothing to conquer.
And
I'll burn it to the ground.
I think there are legitimate people who are wondering about his state of mind, because he's been so isolated for 2 years. And even just watching video of him, he's visually changed so much.
Well, a lot of Botox.
But even beyond the Botox, his affect has changed. His gestures are much more agitated.
Someone was speculating, Judy, I'm sure you saw on TV when he was meeting with his the Russian equivalent of the National Security Council. He was that enormously long table, and he was a good 30 to 50 feet away from them, and they were all gathered together on the other end, sitting right next to each other, and then he was on the other end. I've heard quite a number of folks now, Malcolm Nance, former Ambassador McFall, General McCaffrey, Admiral Stavridis, all say that they actually believe he's worried about being assassinated now. And that's part of the reason. It's not a COVID thing. He's worried about being assassinated. As Malcolm Nance mentioned, the minimum distance you need to be away from a suicide bomber is 30 feet to survive. And he's keeping himself 30 feet away from everybody. At least, if not more. I find that fascinating. I'm not saying Malcolm was right, and I don't know that he believes himself to be 100% correct, but it is nonetheless very, very interesting that he's keeping himself 30 to 50 feet away from everyone. The only people he sat next to was earlier in the week when he went to meet the airline attendants for Aeroflot.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was interesting.
Yeah. But I'm curious, Judy, how and why did your family immigrate to the United States?
Probably right before the revolution. They came through over here as indentured servants. They had people some to northeastern Pennsylvania, and we also had some go to Brazil, which we found out later in life.
Wow.
Yeah, I know what they
And there's a lot of Ukrainians that did that.
Mhm.
Went down to Brazil.
I had no idea about
Yeah, I
that.
had no
Wow.
idea about that.
Yeah.
I do. We know about the heavy Eastern European influence throughout Pennsylvania, but especially up in your area.
Mhm.
And of course, there's still the Eastern European neighborhoods of Philadelphia and really throughout the Commonwealth. But those are two big concentrations. Brazil, I had no idea.
Schuylkill County actually has more people of Ukrainian descent than any county in the
Yeah.
Commonwealth.
Yeah.
They were brought in as strike breakers initially against the Molly Maguires, and then Molly Maguires started taking them into their ranks.
I hope I don't sound stupid, Judy, but are you talking about they came from the Russian or the Soviet Revolution, the Russian Revolution, Civil War?
Right.
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 Okay.
Yeah. Before then. Yeah.
Took out the Tsar.
Yeah.
And they stayed here. And I know my great grandmother was a domestic, and I believe my great grandfather worked in the mines.
Yeah.
And he was big. He was big. Yeah. And then right before World War II started, my grandfather actually joined up in Canada to go back and fight for the land.
Wow.
And then he joined the American Navy when we got involved.
That's pretty incredible.
So, yeah, my family is very, I guess, involved in watching all of this and praying, and it's where your ancestors come from, and just in your family, where they came from as well. So it's your homeland. You might be American, but that's your homeland.
Mhm. Yeah. Is your family looking forward to Easter? That was always I loved that when I was a kid. I loved putting the basket together with my mom and taking it to church on Holy Thursday and having it blessed and making.
Yeah, we usually do it on Good Friday. I'm not Good Friday, Holy Saturday. We
Mhm.
take it, with the kielbasa and the salt and the eggs, and try to maintain the tradition.
Yeah. Do you make the pasta bread, or do you do like nut roll or?
My mother would make the kolache, or the kolache. I don't bake.
Judy, I gotta warn you, if you're going to have kielbasa, you're not that long of a drive. Be careful, because
Nix.
I'll tell you what.
It's good.
Even though my
Come
family, when we were younger, just sort of got the store-bought major manufacturer type, I've always loved it. And when I was living and working in Jersey, Garfield, New Jersey has a large Polish population, and there are a number of delis where you could get the real stuff. And once I got that,
Oh yeah.
goodness gracious, that's why I wear black, Judy, because I look a little thinner that way. And then this one over here, Mika will get the real stuff and knows how to make it properly, and never a bad time.
Well, there are some great places in like Dixon City and Scranton too. Oh, I can't remember the name of the one place that I got pierogies from.
There used to be Mondrose. You probably got pierogies from there at one time, and then there was Giannis's you could get kielbasa from, but they're gone.
Oh, that's a shame.
Now there's Bosax and Oliphant. They've got really good ones.
Ooh.
Really good kielbasa, award-winning. Yeah.
Where do you
And I
think
that-
where do you think this is gonna go, Judy? What do you see? What does your knowledge of the area, what does your heritage, what is your family history, what does it tell you? Where do you think this is going? Where does this end, or does it end?
It's going to be a long-out battle because Ukrainians are very stubborn and we don't protect the homeland.
Yes, they are. Are you watching?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, they are stubborn.
It's
They are. I'll
Ask
tell you
my
what,
family
Judy,
about me and
I don't-
anybody from that side.
I don't want to make light of it, but between that and this Irish guy, there's a hell of a lot of stubbornness in this house. I can guarantee you. There's
I prefer determined.
a determined, yeah. There's a couple of immovable objects in here. But seriously, where do you? I cut you off, and I didn't mean to do that. I shouldn't make
No,
light of
that's
this.
okay.
I shouldn't make light
No,
of the
that's fine.
topic. But where does this end? Does it end when?
I don't know. You know, I'm still very concerned. I don't know where it will end. I don't know.
Do you think?
Don't see.
Do you think the Russians will stop at Ukraine?
No. I think they will keep going. If they can get Ukraine,
The
they'll continue
Baltics
to go
would be
through.
next, and Moldova would be next. Moldova is already
Exactly.
freaking out,
Yeah.
as they should, quite really, and as are the Baltics. The three Baltic
Yeah.
nations are certainly, because there is that little chunk of Russia next to the Baltics. They've already got a foothold there. Judy, our guest is here, so thank you very much for ringing us. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you realize how easy it is to call in and be part of the program. Please tell everyone you know to start doing that. You know how much I like taking phone calls. It is one of the biggest things that would ever make this program turn into my full-time job, is to have the number of callers stacked up the way a Tom Hartman or a Stephanie Miller or a Randy Rhodes or even the other folks on the other side of the aisle, the way they have calls racked up and they can't even get to all of them in a program. So please tell everybody to do what you just did. Challenge accepted, Judy. Bravo.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
being part of the
Thanks.
program.
It's lovely to meet you, Judy.
Nice to meet you both. Bye-bye.
Bye.
On the line with us, dialing in via audio, is our guest for the program. That is Representative Brian Sims. Among the many, many titles that Brian holds: civil rights lawyer, PA state representative, candidate, Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. One of his least notable titles is friend of ours. And you lucky guy, you. So he is dialing in from the road during the petition process. And Brian, welcome finally, sir. I don't mean finally just tonight, but I've been trying to get you on for so long. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff and Kristen. Gang, I'm so sorry that I'm having to call in. When we set this up so long ago, we thought I'd be live and on Zoom. Heck, I thought I might even be in studio with you, but I'm sorry that I'm having to call in. But as you just pointed out, we are deep in the petitions period.
You would have been our first in studio guest. That would have been brilliant. We might have to do that anyway, because I know you're going to come up here for Music Fest, or I would highly suggest Celtic Fest, which is even better than Music Fest. I'm going to have you right in studio for that.
Celtic Fest sounds right up my alley.
I happen to like it better than Music Fest because even though it's not quite as big, it is nowhere near as crowded.
Well, you just hit on it. I mean, I was there for Music Fest last year, and that was I've never really seen anything like that.
It's mental. Music Fest is now, gosh, how many years in a row have they broken it? Well, I mean, there was the COVID years, but before that, they're routinely now over 1 million people that visit Music Fest. And when you think that the population of Bethlehem itself is only in the 80,000 range, it's the 8th largest municipality in the state, and borders the 3rd largest municipality, an anchor of the Lehigh Valley. And you have about 1.3 million people that visit a 10-day event. That's a, as the president says, that's a BFD.
Yeah, it is.
Let me get right to our standard opening question, sir. It is the same opening question that we use for all of our guests. It is intentionally vague because we want you to just answer extemporaneously and tell us what comes into your brain. And that is, who is Brian Sims and how did you get here?
That's a great question. How do I answer that question? I'm a civil rights advocate and activist who got fed up with government and ran for a seat in the House of Representatives, and 10 years later, I have been the person fighting back the hardest against every radical Republican that you'll hear Democrats in our state and around the country talk about. I'm probably the person that has fought back against them the hardest the last 10 years. And now I'm running for lieutenant governor to sort of take that experience to leadership in the Senate. How I got here is an interesting story, I guess. My mom and dad are lieutenant colonels in the Army. I'm not a native Pennsylvanian. I'm not from Philadelphia. I was born in Washington, D.C. My parents met during the Vietnam War and stayed active duty, and had a kid and my older brother in Germany. And 4 years later, my twin brother and I were born in D.C. And then 4 years later, we were living in West Point, New York at the military academy when my youngest sister was born. And I lived all over the country as my parents' command positions sort of rotated, everywhere from Kansas to Alaska, literally Alaska. We were stationed in Eagle River, Alaska, and I was living there when the Exxon Valdez ran ashore. Moved from there to back to Washington, D.C. And when my parents retired from the military, they moved to Pennsylvania and moved to Chester County. And I went to high school in Chester County. I went to Bloomsburg University for college. But it was really after law school when I moved to Philadelphia and realized that despite the fact that I was living in the city that wrote the rules for representative democracy, I was living in a state that was getting it wrong, really, really wrong with respect to representative democracy. And that, at no surprise, I hope to anybody, that the policy implications of representation in a representative democracy are really important. And so I spent years trying to get LGBTQ equality in Pennsylvania by electing out people, and just could not elect somebody at the statewide level. And then about 11 or so years ago, my good friends sat me down and said maybe I was the person I was looking for. And I can't say I believed them at first, but I gave it another year or two, and then announced that I was running against an incumbent legislator from Philadelphia. And I ran and I won I by the sort of skin of my teeth, and became the first openly LGBTQ person ever elected to our General Assembly. And so I did something different. Because I didn't grow up in the Democratic Party of Philadelphia, didn't have their support. I promised my constituents and I promised my colleagues that I would do something different. That I had spent my lifetime teaching people about how to use privilege and what privilege was and how it impacted equality. And so I decided that I wouldn't wait for any of my women colleagues to have to talk about their own bodies or their own families when sexist legislation was being introduced, that I could do it because I looked just like the people introducing those bills. And that I wouldn't wait for my colleagues of color to have to talk about their heritage or their family every time racist legislation was introduced, that I could do those things. And so the way that most people really know me is that these last 10 years, I'm probably the person that's had my microphone cut the most on the House floor in Pennsylvania. I have had far too many instances where I have pointed out how white or how male my legislature is when it's attacking women and abortion rights. Or, a lot of people watched me lose my shit on the Speaker of the House about a year ago for exposing us all to COVID and covering it up. And so the way I kind of describe myself, and at least in the General Assembly, is I'm a civil rights attorney who got mad and ran for office. But I have found myself in the most gerrymandered General Assembly left in the United States, with statistically some of the most aggressively, radically conservative leaders in the United States. And I have been the tip of the spear and the face of the shield fighting back against them for a decade.
Just a reminder, folks, Brian is actually driving and dialed into the program through the Zoom. So you may hear some twists, you may hear some signal cuts in and out and whatever. He is literally in motion traveling right now. And while he valiantly offered to pull off and do this, I told him, keep driving, get where you're going. It's not getting any lighter out. Let's put it that way. Let me ask you about that. I have a lot of theories and a lot of would have become standard statements about the party opposite us, including the fact that I don't believe them to be a political party, a functioning political party at all anymore, but rather some type of a corporation, really. Their sole purpose is to hold on to power so that they can redirect money to the people that own them. It's interesting to see a group of folks who hate government so much but are desperate to control it. This Republican Party, I shouldn't even call it that, this Republican corporation here in the Commonwealth really doesn't give a crap whether folks like you live or die, as we saw in the way that they very intentionally exposed all of your colleagues on both sides of the aisle to a deadly virus and then lied about it and hid it and covered it up. So I guess my very long-winded question is, what is a day in the life of Representative Brian Sims? Maybe not candidate Brian Sims, but representative, when you have to go into the State House and look these folks in the face. Do they quietly pull you aside at the, cafeteria and say, Brian, we know it's all BS. We're kidding. We just have to take care of the people who pay us, which should be the people, but we have to take care of the people who flood us with campaign cash? Or are they true believers and quite honestly don't think you're the same level human being because you happen to be gay or because this virus is fake? And so what if I have it and all the rest of you can have it? I mean, is there folks of both? Are some of them just going through the motions, or are some of them dead true blue believers? What's a day in the life at the state capitol like?
That's a big question. So the first thing that people need to remember is that, and I hinted at it, or so I guess I didn't hint, I said it earlier, that we're the last great gerrymandered state left in the United States. So Republicans control the House of Representatives and they control the Senate. What that control means is that literally every bill that is discussed on the floor that day, when it's brought up, how it's brought up, whether it has a chance of becoming law, is 100% at their discretion, 100% at their whim. It also means that they control every single committee. 28 committees on that in the House of Representatives. There are 17 Republicans and there are 11 Democrats. And every single vote can be a party line vote. And so when you have the absolute control that they have on virtually any issue that they bring to the floor, there is this sort of self-righteousness, this sort of indignation for any opposition, anybody that would dare express opposition or frustration. It's a sort of supremacy approach. And I see it every day. And I tell people often, I think that part of the reason I rub my Republican colleagues so wrong isn't necessarily because I'm a gay man that it lives out and loud and proud. I don't think it's because I'm a feminist that will forever push back against sexism and misogyny. I think it's because I dare speak truth to their power in a broken system that is very much an echo chamber. Republicans have stolen roughly the equivalent of about 1.5 million votes or party registrants in order to maintain the leadership role that they have in the House and Senate. And there is not 1 ounce of me that is willing to waste decorum on a person that has stolen control and used that control to maintain, my own second-class citizenship and to literally attack the friends, neighbors, colleagues, family members that and frankly, they have as well. And so I guess I start by saying there is no amount of them disliking me. There is no amount of name calling. There's no amount of jabbing or messing with me that in any way softens my resolve or my frustration with them. It just hasn't. I'm a second-class citizen in this state, and I spend my days talking to and working with people who are significantly more impacted than I am because they are LGBTQ, or more importantly, because they're LGBTQ and intersectional. So the bullshit that these people have, or the frustrations or the ick factor that they have with me or with women or with my colleagues that are second-generation immigrants, I have zero patience for. I have zero. I give it very little credence, but it is a reality that they are in control and that they feel that in a lot of other ways about me. And so, there's a few things you can do with that. You can try to make people understand you better. You can try to make people, have empathy for you and the people around you better, or you can make them fear you. And with my colleagues, I find it's a mix of all of those things. My Republican colleagues, some of them are true believers. There are people over there that do not believe that I or people like me should have equal rights. But then again, there are also people over there that do not believe that women should have access and control of their own body. I tell people often, I don't want or have a thick skin because of this job, and that surprises people. I still cry at like a good cotton commercial. I really don't want a thick skin, but I have a very informed skin. And what I mean by that is that I know that jerks act like jerks, assholes act like assholes, mean people are mean. And if you know that going in, it's not valuable or fruitful to give them your emotional or psychological energy if you know that that's what they're just trying to take.
So why, if there's anyone on the other side of the aisle that you do have any sort of relationship with, no matter how superficial or cordial, or not cordial for that matter, but you still talk, have you ever asked them, maybe just for your own curiosity or for a curiosity that you can take back to your constituents or out on the campaign trail, of why do you do what you do? You hate government, but you're in it. You hate me, but you talk to me. You hate workers, but you suck up to them and somehow convince them to vote for you. How are those conversations had? I know when I asked Rep. Ceresi and Rep. Krajewski, he basically just said no, like we don't even really communicate. But I mean, do you have, or actually I should amend that. Rep. Ceresi said they talk very superficially just about, weather and family things, but Rep. Ricks basically said no. But like, do you ask those questions? Yeah. Is there a even just for your own curiosity, or like, do you try to ask about what the motivations are behind just the venom that seems to come from the right out of Harrisburg and really out of every state capital and out of Washington?
I do, and I've been in office a little longer than both of those guys. I'm grateful to have them in office. The quality, the caliber of our Democrats has gotten a lot better, not just our numbers, but the actual quality, and they're good examples of that. But I've been in office now 10 years, and I chair the Equality Caucus. And Jeff, by the way, my signal from on my end seems to be bouncing. Can you still hear me?
I can. I will let you know if I'll
good.
Throw something out there if I lose you, or I'll text you in the background or something if I lose you. But we're good. I won't. If I'm quiet, we're good.
Right. I have, and I chair the Equality Caucus, and this work is largely the work of my life. And what I get from different colleagues is slightly different answers. First of all, I believe that a large majority of my Republican colleagues believe in LGBTQ equality. I really do. I am frustrated that for many of them, it seems to be rooted in having a personal connection to an LGBTQ person. And it always frustrates me when people's empathy only extends to those that they know. It's like they want equality for their gay cousin, but not the gay person across the street from them. And I find that frustrating.
Portman. Very Rob Portman of them. Yeah.
100%. 100%. There are of course many Republicans that actively do not believe in my equality, but the ones that you're talking about, the ones that I can, like, how can I have a relationship with you? What they will say is often blame the mechanisms of the party. Republicans, that's just not where the party, that's just not what we're going to do. That's not where we're going to go. We wouldn't hurt the Republicans that are opposed to that. But it's kind of wanting to have it both ways. It's wanting to live in a world that doesn't grant equality to all people, but also wanting all people to believe that you believe in their equality.
It's wanting to shut your microphone off on the floor and expose you to COVID, but then behind the scenes in the cafeteria line or at the Capitol gym say, it's just, it's window dressing, Brian. You're a good dude. And isn't that even more shallow? Doesn't that make it even more reprehensible? When you're not a true believer, I can almost respect the true believers But when you're not one, when you're doing it for show, for window dressing, isn't that even worse, or arguably even worse?
No, it is. I used to think this about Rick Saccone. Rick Saccone, who's running for lieutenant governor as a Republican, former House member, a deeply conservative man. He's the person that yells out "under God" during the pledge when we're giving that line. But you know, my every interaction with Rick, he was always completely upfront with me. I've never felt like he was being duplicitous or two-faced. You know, there aren't a whole lot of people like that. That's how I am about my democratic values. People ask me about this a lot, and I am not a transactional legislator. People don't come to me and say, I'll get on your bill if you'll get on this bill, or if you'll get off this bill, I'll get onto that. That's not my 10 years in office. I've never been that kind of a legislator. The policy itself is what drives whether or not I'm a supporter. But that is just not the case for far too many of my colleagues.
Let me ask you about something similar, because I don't know how long I'm actually going to have you, and I have a list of topics, and I usually try to expound on them and go long form. I don't know when you're going to disappear, though. So you mentioned, sadly, and all too similar well, let me back up. I should say, if you were a paid, well, you are a paid employee. If the state legislature was a business, let's just say it was a corporation, it was a private sector entity. Can you explain this to folks, especially our listeners around the globe and outside of Pennsylvania? So you work for the private stockholder corporation that is the Pennsylvania legislature, and I could make an argument it is privately owned. You could be fired just for being who you are, and it's legal.
Yeah, this is an easy thing for me to explain. Every single state and the federal government prohibit certain types of people from being discriminated against in certain types of ways. It's our body of civil rights laws. Most of them are housed in what were the initial ethnic intimidation acts of the late 1950s and early 1960s. And they prohibited discrimination based on race or ethnicity in housing, employment, and public accommodations. We've included that over the years to include education and insurance, and we've expanded the protected classes. We include now not just race and ethnicity, but nationality. We include gender often. We include, in some places, sexual orientation and gender identity, but not most, and not in Pennsylvania. Disability, for example, is included. And so in Pennsylvania, what this means is that a person like me can be fired from my job for being an LGBTQ person. I can be kicked out of my apartment that I am renting. I can be kicked off of a park bench for being LGBTQ in about half of Pennsylvania. Now, the reason is that Pennsylvania actually leads the nation in something really cool. More municipalities in Pennsylvania have banned LGBTQ people from being discriminated against than any other state in the country now. The sort of kicker here is that by now, if any other state in the country had this many municipalities, their whole state passes non-discrimination laws. But yeah, in my drive to work in Harrisburg from Philadelphia, I drive in and out of zones where I have full civil rights 4 different times. Depending on where I get gas or where I break down, both of which have happened in my 10 years, I am either an equal citizen in the state where I have represented the state's largest city for 10 years, or I am not. And it is purely on a region by region basis.
Kristen actually left the studio to go downstairs, but she did type in a question real quick through the Facebook so that the rest of you who are watching on Facebook can see it. Have some of them, meaning your colleagues on the right, have some of them rationalized away the harm that their position on LGBTQ, he tried to say, always good when the radio guy can't talk. Have they rationalized their position away about what equality actually does? I find that often that is what I hear from Republican friends at home, her original home being Snyder County. I do not support violence against gay people, but I don't accept their lifestyle. So have your colleagues kind of rationalized it? Are they trying to thread the needle, so to speak? Like, you're a great guy, Brian, but
Yeah, I think so. It's it's an empty argument, and I'll tell you why. Part of the reason that electing out people to elect to sort of elected bodies where they had not served on before has such a big impact on equality legislation is that it robs people of the excuse that they don't know anybody who's LGBTQ. Now, you and I know that virtually everybody in this country does know somebody who's LGBTQ. That's just the nature. I mean, we are all places and we are everywhere. But because we were not in the General Assembly, my colleagues for far too long could simply say, this seems like a special interest thing. I don't know anybody that's gay. I don't know anybody that's trans. Why do I have to worry about their rights? But because they now know me, they can't sort of throw that excuse out as easily. Yes, there is rationalization. I remember a couple of years ago telling one of my colleagues who was a closeted Republican that he needed to get off of all of the anti-LGBT bills. And I said to him flat out, because of votes like yours, queer people kill themselves. Like, the LGBT youth suicide rate is a national travesty, and it is directly linked to the shame of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric in general assemblies, on TV, and pop culture. And so I remember one of my colleagues saying, how dare you? You're telling me kids kill themselves because of me? And I said, hell yes, they do. And yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, however they choose to rationalize it, like most people, I have just spent too many times on this earth, too many passes around the sun to just because somebody can give an excuse, I don't have to give it the credence of reality.
and we should know, I did see reported this week, and I must admit, I don't know if it was just polling or it actually was born out of the census, but the highest percentage of Americans ever recorded that identify as being part of the LGBTQ community is right now. So I didn't actually phrase that the right way, but I believe it is as much as 8.4%. I believe it's the highest percentage in the history of the country. And I guess I'm usually not the guy that always forces ourselves to look at a bright side when there isn't one, but that is a bright side. We must be doing something as a society to allow that number to exist.
Well, I will say, one of the great things about being an LGBTQ plus activist in this era is that we really are, breaking ground in the understanding that the gender binary is just bullshit. And so, whereas when I first started in this work, it was largely just LG or maybe LGB, and before that, it was mostly just F. Now, the LGBTQ plus, we are lots of vibrant, different things in lots of vibrant, different ways. And not only is that exciting, the fact that we can be and are is exciting. You pick any type of flower that exists in nature, and you will find so much variation just within one type of flower. And so that that we are on the cusp, that we're the communities that are breaking ground with fully recognizing just how amazingly diverse we all are, even within our own skin, I think is a really cool time to be alive. And I think that's part of the reason that you're seeing more people than ever before identify as LGBTQ+. There are not more queer people than there have ever been before. There are more people that see in themselves, identify and understand in themselves that they're a part of our communities. And that's a great thing.
That's how I look at it. I don't think there is suddenly a massive growth in the population of queer people. They feel comfortable enough, empowered enough, dare I say, comfortable enough in their own skin, or even, dare I say, maybe even defiant enough to say, you know what, screw this. This is who I am, and that's the end of it. The rest of you get used to it. Judy mentions in the chat, Judy's been awesome today. She's been a rock star today. I hope I don't have to put her on the payroll because I don't have one. But Chambersburg recently removed their anti-discrimination ordinance when a Republican majority took over their town council. I would assume that your campaigning has taken you to Chambersburg. If I could just ask your general thoughts on that. what the
Yeah.
Chambersburg Council.
And Judy, thank you for the question. So part of the reason this is so scary and so dangerous and so unique is that we hadn't seen it before. We had not seen a town council that had passed an LGBT inclusive non-discrimination act suddenly decide unilaterally within one political cycle to change it and remove it and essentially state publicly that, no, never mind, that discrimination that we told you was no longer okay, it's okay again. That's a hell of a scary statement for an LGBTQ kid in Chambersburg or an LGBTQ adult. You know, it's just the dangerousness of it and the scariness of it are very real. What I know is that it's all part of, more part of the reason that we have to pass statewide non-discrimination in Pennsylvania. We cannot be a place where your geography determines whether or not you are safe from discrimination from your peers or not. And yeah, you know, there was a decision, a Supreme Court decision that came down in June or July of last year called the Bostock decision, a really important decision. And the Bostock decision was a conglomerate of 3 different Supreme Court cases that were combined together that sort of covered the breadth of what non-discrimination could look like for LGBTQ plus people in the workplace, at home, in communities. And, you know, how applicable it is in places like Chambersburg is still, frankly, remains to be seen. The boundaries of that have to be tested by court cases, where we will then determine what's the precedential value. But all of that aside, just imagine being a kid, right? You're 14 years old in Chambersburg. You've just won somebody that's going to be respected, and suddenly to have that protection pulled away from you, not just the announcement that the leaders, the elected leaders of the community that you live in and love, no longer think that you should be respected and protected, but they're going to remove those barriers that were keeping people from doing that, from discriminating against you. That's a wicked, heinous type of psychological abuse that frankly is half the reason you see many of my Republican colleagues introducing anti-LGBTQ bills.
And Judy asked me to mention that you please let Brian know it's Judy from his meet and greet in Dixon City.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hi, Judy.
Let me ask you about something that I think is kind of related to this, but not exactly the same thing. Republicans in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania seem to think that your city is not part of Pennsylvania. You are just a city. You are just another place. You're the place where all the people of color live. Do you get that sense? Because I get that sense. I get the sense that not only is Philadelphia demonized for a lot of different things, I think they're just ornery because of the statewide races, and you pull majorities out of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, you win state races, and they don't like that. They don't like that at all, because the true believers in the counties where about 3 of them live is not enough to carry statewide elections. And it seems to me that they have begun in the last couple of years, and this is certainly something that was personified by the ex-president. The Philadelphia is really not part of Pennsylvania. And heck, it might not even be part of these United States. Do you get that sense? Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I all over the place? What is your sense? Oh, did I lose him? I might have lost him. Yeah, I think I lost him. Again, Brian's traveling. He's really doing me a huge favor being a part of the program today. We had been working on this for a long time to get him on the program, but again, the court decisions and the way the petition window changed, it got crazy. And yeah. So he's traveling, and I think there he goes. Yeah, dropped off the screen. There we go. You're not seeing this on your screen on Facebook, but I have the the non-video participants up in front of me. If you're used to Zoom, you'll know what I'm talking about. And so we did lose him. He probably got cut off. It happens. But I do think that's something to pursue that I would like to talk about just a little bit, and we'll see if we can get him back. But the city of Philadelphia, and now in the estimation, in the opinion.
Oh, there you are.
It's all right. I know where you're traveling. Don't worry about it. It happens. You're doing me the favor, trust me. So don't worry about it. Let me try to get back to the question I was going to ask you. If we expand upon the way that folks of the LGBTQ community are looked at, I'm sensing in the last few years, especially under the regime of the ex-president, that your city as a whole is looked at that way. You're not really part of Pennsylvania. You're not really part of the United States. That Philadelphia is its own little island and really not part of anything, and shouldn't be represented, shouldn't be taken care of, shouldn't count. Uh-oh. We're fighting a signal.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I'm still here.
Is that the sense that you get about Philadelphia?
Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're twisted.
Well,
but yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Well, so the first thing I would say is that Philadelphia doesn't need to be taken care of. It's taking care of the rest of the state. 1/3 of our state budget is pulled from Philadelphia. Like, Philadelphia is hands down the largest contributor to Pennsylvania's economic success, the largest contributor to Pennsylvania's budget, just its budget. And that's why, I always take so much offense to my colleagues consistently shortcutting the city. It's the city that is paying for the services that they're trying to shortcut us. And, that's a complicated thing. Philadelphia is a city built upon diversity. The reason it's a successful city is because of its diversity. But it's an island, as you pointed out. So you've got this General Assembly that both, I believe, is racist towards the citizenry of Philadelphia, is sort of hates the fact that it is the economic driver of the state, and has taken and stolen the ability to take control and bring it to areas of the state that frankly shouldn't be representing, or that don't have the concentration to have the equivalent representation that they've taken. There's a lot of things at play here, but Philadelphia takes care of Pennsylvania economically in a lot of really important ways. And this idea that Republicans perpetuate about having to sort of care for our largest city is a farce.
I don't think they even think that you are part of the state. That's my question, I guess, is that you are somehow some kind of foreign land and a drag on everything, which is obviously runs factually contradictory to what you just laid out. But it's a target. It's being demonized. It's a almost a caricature. It's a boogeyman for Republicans. Is that? And I don't know that it was always that way. I'm sure they were always upset that the number of Democrats that are in Philadelphia, and certainly the numbers that you vote in, but it seems to have taken a much harsher, harsher turn, anti-Philadelphia turn. Do you feel that when you're in Harrisburg?
I do. And frankly, I used to feel it from Democrats as well. When I joined the legislature, the entire leadership of the House Democratic Caucus, for the most part, was Western Pennsylvania, and I felt that a lot of those leaders resented Philadelphia as well. And I'm glad to say that that's changed, but it hasn't changed among my Republican colleagues. And Philadelphia is, as you pointed out, it's a scapegoat. It's a place to pile their resentment on academia, their resentment on people of color, their resentment on industry that is an industry that they control. It is very much a pretext for the underlying otherism that drives Republican policy to dislike Philadelphia.
How worthy, if that's the right word, how justified, how beneficial is a party platform when it seems, and let's remember, the National Republican Party voted to have no platform whatsoever. and officially does not have a party platform anymore. And Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, who introduced his plan for when the Republicans regain the United States Senate, is to raise taxes on poor people. That's his part of his plan. How much of a party platform do you really have when it is built on the otherism? Gay folks are just other people. People of color are just other people. They're not us. They're other people. Democrats are not people. They're just other. How much of a platform do you have when it's built on other?
Well, here's the problem with it, is that it allows your air quotes platform to be extremely flexible. It allows it to be whomever you want to hate or whoever you dislike or whatever you're opposed to be at any given time. If you never state what your values and what your objectives with those values are, then you get to tell people that your values and your objectives are whatever they are in that moment or ever they are in that time. And when they're that amorphous, as you pointed out, they're not real. But I think that's part of the goal, is to be so specious about what you believe and why people, that what are otherwise beliefs, core tenets of your ideology, because people will do a lot for their core tenets. And so I think a lot of this is sort of mechanisms of control, mechanisms of manipulation, but also sort of internal self-propagandization.
So in that case, let me extend this out a little further as we try kind of travel down this road, and hopefully I'm tying all these things together well enough. The issue of women's rights, as it were, or women's health decisions, or women's autonomy. How is the issue of women's bodily autonomy, how is this even an issue for government? If you're a small government conservative whose philosophy is built on small government and keep government out of my business and give me my tax money back and I'll run my small business, I don't need government to tell me how to do it, keep government out of the bedroom, how on earth can you find yourself lined up against, oh, and especially extended to the COVID vaccine, run around screaming my body, my choice? But if a woman gets pregnant and it's not her body or her choice, how does that even happen?
Well, honestly, and from what I can see from my colleagues, maybe my life experience as well, but especially my colleagues, there are probably lots of types of people on the other side of that argument, but there are two main types that I see. There are people who legitimately believe that life begins at conception. I obviously do not. I don't believe that the science is there for that belief whatsoever. I think that's sort of taking an ideological belief and telling yourself that it is rooted in science, even though it is not, or saying, or just believing simply that science doesn't matter. And so to those people to whom life begins at conception, I think there's a lot of ideological holes in that belief, but it is still where people attach a belief that tells them to oppose abortion. For everyone else, I think that the support for abortion or attacks on abortion is about control. It's about making sure that women know that they are lesser. It's about making sure that people know that if men in government tell somebody that they have to do something or cannot do something, that they have to do it or cannot do it. It's about perpetuating systems of control. And so, yeah, I don't want to, the issue about, the issues of how people believe in bodily autonomy and believe in choice or do not are super complicated. And yes, there are some true believers, but by and large, I think the reason we see it resurfacing as such a hot topic and as such a dangerous, sort of heinous policy issue these days is as a reminder, is to remind women, to remind Democrats, to remind racial and ethnic minorities that these people have power and want to use it and to take from us.
I just have always found, and I've had this discussion with Republicans, that if they genuinely believed in small government, then automatically not only would they necessarily support a woman's bodily autonomy, which is how I tend to look at it. Because once you tell a woman when she can and cannot have children, you might as well tell her when she can and cannot go to school, vote, have vaccines, anything else. But that said, but if you genuinely believe in small government conservatism, then you should not only believe in that woman's right over her own bodies, but also extended to the point that government has absolutely no role here. None. Absolutely none. It's not my idea of abortion as a political issue is exactly the opposite. It's not a political issue. It's not a governmental issue. If a man breaks his leg, government doesn't decide whether it gets set and put in a cast or not. Should government then, on the opposite end of the scale, decide when men should have vasectomies? Because it's a lot simpler and way more effective. So you don't want the woman to decide when and when she cannot have a child, but then again, you're going to deny her birth control as well, and education about her own body. It just seems the whole thing to me is simply not an issue for government. It's a personal issue. And if you're a small government conservative, you should believe that. You may not agree with the decision that the woman is making, but you should, at a minimum, agree that government should stay the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the sort of mind your own business set thinks that everything is their business.
Mind your own business that I have an attic full of military assault weapons and would prefer to buy a tank over a truck, but whether my sister has a child or not, no, I'm all over that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think you're getting to something that I talk about often, and that is the sort of the anti-intellectualism of it all. And I really do believe that there are those on the right that count on us getting tongue-tied or frustrated or befuddled by this anti-intellectualism. How can you say this but do that? How can you think this but vote that way? Meanwhile, they're just getting what they want and counting on us being tied up in trying to intellectualize what is largely just anti-intellectual behavior.
Similar to the Republican machine in Harrisburg and throughout the dead red areas of the Commonwealth, and you have visited them all, there is a machine in Philadelphia. Thankfully, you were not part of it. You were elected probably despite it.
Indeed.
But it did do serious damage in the most recent odd year election, the election of 21, where the voter turnout rate in Philadelphia, if I am correct, and I may have it wrong, was in the 19% range. And I have some friends in Philadelphia who told me, when I asked why was the participation so poor, that folks on the street, their neighbors and people that they were involved with either at work or in community groups, political activities, said we didn't choose any of these candidates. They were given to us. They were chosen for us. Do you sense that? Is there beginning to be a serious disconnect between the party bosses, let me be blunt, and we know who we're talking about, in Philadelphia and the electorate at large?
Well, yeah. Well, yes, of course. Right. Of course. I don't think you have to look further than any of the polling on the current Senate race versus where the party is putting its support to know that there's a massive disconnect. And it's true in Philadelphia as well. The reason that the Democratic State Committee in Pennsylvania endorsed my challenger was because my own city party boss flipped on me after showing support for me. And I know that there's a lot of people that just say that's politics. And you know what? There are some days I say that's just politics. The problem is that my politics are attached to equality and attached to what I consider to be a lot of morality. And so, these what are games to people about their own power or influence, for everyone else, this shit isn't esoteric. It's very real world. But yeah, there's just simply no question that the sort of the standard 80s 90s machine Democrat that dominated all of Pennsylvania is no longer dominating, nor should they be.
It would seem to me that if you are a member of the Democratic Party, that you believe in the small d democratic process, and that folks inside the party should be making said decisions. I happen to believe that there's nothing wrong with the folks who are going to be or plan to be involved in a primary, for them to sit down months before that primary, even before petitions, lay their cards on the table and say, look, here's my fundraising, here's where my support's coming from, here's my path to victory. And having the other candidates say, oh, well, we can't match that, so rather than tear the party apart, we'll support you. There's still a little bit of room sometimes for some fedora cigarette smoking backroom discussions, but when those don't yield anything, and when you have a plurality of qualified candidates, then it's up to the party to decide. Why do you think the party doesn't seem to agree with that?
I'm still here. I think what happens is, and you see this even with upstart, very progressive groups. You hear groups say, hey, listen, we're looking to make change. We're looking to do something different. We're looking to bring in new blood and new ideas. And then after doing that, maybe successfully a time or two, they suddenly become just as insular as the party. And they're really not looking for change makers. They're just looking for their own change makers. They're looking for their own people again. And so, what I do know is that the caliber and quality of the Democrats in the House, for example, has gotten much better over the last 10 years that I have been there. And in large part, that's been due to advocacy and activism and women in politics. It's not been due to the party mechanisms. Where you see change, where you see big, bold leadership, has been people who have been bucking the trend, or where, as you see all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you see very hard-working women who refuse to give up in the face of tough odds and develop, so much experience that they become extremely electable candidates.
Amen. The most peaceful run countries on earth, the most equal countries on earth, the most self-identified happy citizenry for nations on earth are those run by women. Scandinavia, New Zealand, Germany for years and years. That's not an accident. That is not an accident. And it does seem to me that the more women who have become involved in politics here in the Commonwealth, that we've been, despite the ridiculous radicalization on the right that has happened in our Commonwealth as well, the left has built up or reestablished its spine, and it's been mostly through the women that have been, not exclusively, but mostly through the women who have been elected. So that you're telling us then that is what you're seeing in your day-to-day.
It really is. I see, I'll give you a really good example of somebody, Summer Lee. Western Pennsylvania, a couple years ago, elected the first African-American woman from the entire western half of the state to the General Assembly. And her name is Summer Lee, which many people know. She's now running for Congress. Summer beat a long-time dynasty family Democrat. She is a Democratic socialist, which was really exciting for us as Democrats, especially as a Philadelphia Democrat, to see the western half of the state really beginning to see the power of progressive politics. People like Emily Kincaid, people like Jess Benham, people like Sarah Innamorato from the western half of the state. Those were not the types of candidates that we were seeing elected perennially up until just the last 5 years or so. And so the quality has gotten a lot better. And frankly, it's certainly no secret to anybody around me. The women candidates that run for the House and the Senate, and certainly those that serve in the House and Senate, are among some of the most powerful, effective leaders that we have. That I hope is not a surprise to anybody. When you have to overcome a lot, when you have to deal with a lot of shit, you get good at overcoming. You get good at dealing with shit.
What does it mean to? Well, how do you find yourself working with these women? Is it just more? Do you find more of a natural fit because of the the implicit urgency for equality in the Commonwealth, or dare I say to reestablish equality in the Commonwealth, does it seem to be more of a natural fit to you?
Until you put it that way, I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to answer that question, but that there is this implicit need for this urgency for equality and how it could impact us. I think there's a lot of natural allyship there. I'm somebody that I always want to make sure people are not comparing marginalization, right? Like, there is nothing about my experiences as a cis gay white man that is comparable to the experiences of an African-American woman or of a trans Latina, for example. But we can all, the lessons of marginalization are relatable, and we can share those lessons and learn from those lessons. And oftentimes what we see in terms of advocacy is that we pool together. Some of my best friends in the country are other LGBTQ plus elected officials in the country, and we're a pretty diverse group of people. And part of the reason we kind of bond together is that we're all trying to do the same things in slightly different ways. And that's how, a lot of my women colleagues, especially the newer women colleagues that I have, they're not, the new women members of the House are not members because their parents were elected officials or because their mom or dad was a judge or something. They're in office to bring their life experiences and their righteous indignation and their frustration, with the modern era politics to the legislature. And that's a marked change from how people matriculated into legislatures, 20, 30, 40, or even 10 years ago.
This might be a very uncomfortable or difficult question. I have held that there are 3 parties in Harrisburg. There are Republicans. And as we all know, Republicans fall in line, Democrats fall in love. And there are Democrats like yourself and the Sarahs and Summers and Danielles and so on that are almost desperate to legislate and actually do something. And then there's a group that's happy to be there and that doesn't want to tee anybody off so that they might not get elected again. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, I think that's exactly spot on. I think that's a really accurate analysis of the types of people right now that are floating around the legislature and frankly are deciding, who does and doesn't have access, who does and doesn't get, the ability to move legislation, who does and doesn't get civil rights.
I know that you have to go soon, and I feel like I've wasted a bit of an opportunity, and I'm going to stretch you just a tiny bit as long as you don't get mad at me. Why are you running for lieutenant governor? Tell me about what it means. Why is this important? Why are you doing this?
Thank you for asking, and it's a very specific answer, so I'm glad to be able to offer it. Our lieutenant governor in Pennsylvania is not a ceremonial position. A lot of people have a tendency to think kind of like a vice president, or they see the sort of ceremonial side of a lieutenant or a vice position and think that that's what ours is. That if the governor can't make it to a ribbon cutting, the lieutenant governor goes in his or her stead. And that is not the case.
There is a little bit of that, but there's also teeth to the position.
Sure. Yeah, there's always going to be pomp and circumstance, with certain levels of government. But no, the lieutenant governor in Pennsylvania is a very specific position that has 3 primary job duties, aside from just leadership in Harrisburg and around the Commonwealth. And those 3 job duties are deeply meaningful to me. They are areas where I believe I have the most to offer. They are the areas where I have the most experience as a candidate of anybody running for this seat. And when I was doing the triage of what was needed in the next 4 years and who could provide those things that are needed, it became clear to me that I am among the people that have this experience, and that the highest use that I could think of 10 very tough years in the legislature and a lifetime of advocacy as a civil rights attorney, that this type of service was appropriate. So the 3 positions. First is that the lieutenant governor chairs the Board of Pardons in Pennsylvania. The criminal justice system in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and in the United States is racist and it is classist. Period. Hard stop. If that shocks any of your listeners, please stay on the line, but I hope you shouldn't be shocked. I've spent my entire career trying to reform and change and correct the criminal justice system, and to be able to chair the Board of Pardons, the place where we get to actually fix some of the most egregious mistakes of the criminal justice system, to be the first ever civil rights attorney to chair the Board of Pardons is deeply meaningful in this era. I believe so much. Secondly, it's the Lieutenant Governor's job to chair the Emergency Management Council, something nobody was paying any attention to until about 2 years ago. But when the governor calls an emergency order, it's actually the Lieutenant Governor that brings together the agencies, the experts, the organizations to resolve that emergency order. And in this regard, I'm the most experienced person running for Lieutenant Governor by almost threefold. I have worked under Republican governors and Democratic governors. I represent the core of our state's largest city, and I'm the child of 2 lieutenant colonels in the Army. And I believe that I have the greatest capability to bring together those agencies and those experts to resolve an emergency in a way that makes sure people don't fall through the cracks. Something that's really common in emergency management response. But honestly, Jeff, it's the last reason, the reason that everybody knows. And that's that the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania is the president of the Senate. They are in charge of the Senate. Voters in Pennsylvania did not trust the parties to govern themselves in the room. And so we created the Lieutenant Governor's position to oversee what I now know to be a completely runaway Senate. Obviously gerrymandered, but our Senate is almost unlike any other legislative body in the United States in a lot of ways. And I can think of no better time to bring a lot of discipline and the greatest amount of experience of any candidate to that room, to oversee that room, to be the eyes, the ears, the voice of a Democratic governor, and frankly, the only progressive running in this race. And I think that's something that I just cannot get over. I'm the only candidate that would, that believes in banning fracking. I did not think I would find myself as the only progressive on the ballot for Lieutenant Governor, but as even more so than just simply the opportunity to use this experience to guide Democrats and control the Senate, I now know that ideologically, Pennsylvanians believe in progressive values and we need them represented as well.
It's going to sound bad. Only 3 more questions, but 2 of them are really quick.
Sure.
So it is, to be clear, just to be clear, it is your intention, if elected Lieutenant Governor, you will run the Senate.
Yeah, it is the job of the Lieutenant Governor. It is the primary job requirement of the Lieutenant Governor. And yes, absolutely. I have more experience with the rules that the Senate are governed by than I believe any candidate, certainly than any candidate running currently, but than any person that's been the Lieutenant Governor for a couple of terms now.
It's my opinion, if Republicans were to sweep statewide offices, maintain control of the legislature, or at least have the right offices that they control, governor, and maintain their majorities in the legislature, that Pennsylvania is going to very quickly become like Texas or Florida. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Frankly, when Texas decided that it no longer wanted to adhere to the general standards and norms of American constitutional law, federated constitutional law, and our Supreme Court said, okay, it literally put on the table every single constitutional right that there is. Every single right that has been determined by a court is back on the table. And that's, the penumbras, the spaces in between our constitutional rights is where we find the bulk of our constitutional rights. And all of that is directly back on the table. Were it not for a Democratic governor, Pennsylvania's Republicans in the House and Senate had the votes to try to overturn our popular vote. They have the votes to pass an 8-week, a 6-week abortion ban. They have the votes to ban trans kids from using bathrooms or playing sports. This stuff, again, I can't say it enough. This stuff is not esoteric. They have the votes and they have the ideology to do it.
What does it mean to be a progressive to you? What is that definition? What is that definition? For me, it is, I've almost stopped using it. I tend to refer myself as a New Deal Democrat, a Jeffersonian Democrat, a Kennedy Democrat, and not just because I carry the family name, but because I believe in what President Kennedy believed in. The Great Society was a Democratic program. The New Deal saved the world from the Republican Great Depression of the 30s. Jefferson himself fought for a progressive tax system and and freedom from religion, not just freedom of religion, and he didn't create the University of Virginia for profit. And Teddy Roosevelt, the first self-labeled progressive, created the national parks and broke up the biggest corporations. It seems to me that progressivism is the history that we're built on. What does it mean to you?
I ask myself this question all the time. I really do. For me, the reason I'm so proud to be a progressive, and this is going to sound really rudimentary, and if it does, maybe that just makes it easier to remember. I think often of the word progress and progressive. As a Democrat, I have beliefs. I am a progressive in how I want to accomplish those beliefs and why I want to accomplish those beliefs. As a Democrat, I'm a liberal, and how I view the world and my worldview and on particular issues is guided by liberal principles. But as a progressive, that's what drives how and why I want to accomplish those things, and why I believe that Democrats, when in control and when in charge, will do more for more. It sounds kind of rudimentary, but I think of the progress and progressive as what defines my progressive voice.
Well, last thing, and that is I have some bad news for you, sir.
Okay.
That is that you are part of our family now. You are part of the Kennedy Effect family now. You have been a trooper calling in while driving and all that stuff, and I know that we can do hands-free and stuff, but you still have to concentrate on what you're talking about. And driving through the rural areas at night is not always as easy as it seems, as it might sound like. How hard is it to drive? Well, drive through some of these rural areas and you'll see skinny roads that are not in great shape, deer up on the side of the roads, a whole 9 yards. But you are part of the family now, and I hope very, very much that this will not be the only time that you come and visit us on the program, regardless of what happens in this race, that you will come and visit us again. If you ever have something that you need to get out to our listenership, legislative, personal, the work that you do, whatever it might be, please know that the door to this program is open to you, and that you are always, always welcome here. And by the way, your friends here in the Saucon Valley very much want to see you sometime soon and break bread with you, and maybe even have an adult beverage. And I want to see your campaign manager in the back. I feel like the only person in Pennsylvania who has not met your campaign manager in person. I feel like the only one who's never met him.
Yeah, my dog's kind of invisible at night, but always with me. Yeah, Jeff, honestly, I can't thank you enough. Thank you, of course, for having me on. It means a lot to me. We've talked a lot about being able to join the show, but being able to thoughtfully, intellectually explain to people why, and from my vantage point, progressive politics, why democratic politics, why liberal democratic politics are not just appropriate, but why they can and should carry the day in Pennsylvania, is something that I've spent my lifetime trying to do, and you have as well. And so I'm grateful to you for the messaging.
Please tell your colleagues this is a safe place to come. You are only the third state rep to come on this program. And I have and by the way, your colleagues on the other side of the aisle are perfectly welcome to come here. We don't yell, scream, name call, gotchas, none of that stuff. We're trying to have intellectual, honest, science, data, facts, history, policy, substantive discussions. They are welcome here. We're not going to agree on much, if anything, but they're still welcome here, because we have to talk to each other, for goodness sake. This Commonwealth is tearing itself apart on many, many levels. We need to talk to each other. But I hope your colleagues will learn from Rep. Joe, Rep. Rick, and now you, that this is a safe place to come. And not just snowflake safe, but safe that we're not going to yell and scream and call names and no gotcha questions and all that stuff. But come back again, and you better tell us when you're coming to the Valley. I'm looking at your square like I'm staring at you. You better tell Kristen and I when you're coming to the Valley. We will break bread at any one of a number of wonderful small family restaurants around here, and we'll just be people for a night. We'll take our political hats off and set them to the side and just have an adult beverage and have a good.
I think I know us too well. No, I know better. I know us too well.
Yeah, well, that's true, but yeah, I know. It's what we do, right? Listen,
well,
stay safe on the campaign
trail.
Not just the driving, but for goodness sake, eat drink water, get your sleep, stay safe. And I say that to every candidate. You can't campaign if you're sick. So
I will.
You-
I promise you. 72
stay
more
safe.
days.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you
thanks,
for
Kristen.
being here.
Bye, gang.
We'll catch up. That is Brian Sims. Randall, I know you are on the line. Please forgive me for ignoring you, but I only had a couple minutes left with the rep, and I didn't think he was going to be able to stay for a phone call, but I'm so grateful that you called. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something to Brian about what's going on among Democratic committee here in Delaware County, next to Philadelphia County.
Right. Is there an issue? Was there a bad issue there?
Yeah,
Or?
there's a big issue. I've looked around and there's nobody circulating his petition.
Oh my. Okay.
My local Brookhaven Borough Committee, Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. We had drive-in petition signings, and I got my wife Andrea to come, and even though she votes in every primary and every general election her whole life, and even though I know she votes straight Democrat, for the primary she always looks to me on who she should be voting for, and so here are all these petitions. Obviously the one for U.S. Senate for Felderman, we both signed. Obviously, we signed the one for PA Attorney General Josh Shapiro for governor, and then they had the corporate Democrat petition for the lieutenant governor that the state committee endorsed because Josh wants, I guess, a corporate Democrat.
He wants. First off, let us cast no aspersions on Mr. Davis. He seems a good and decent man. That would be Austin Davis. He's from the Pittsburgh area. He is also state representative, and he is the Democratic, the presumptive Democratic nominee, Josh Shapiro. It's his choice for lieutenant governor. I happen to think that Mr. Shapiro is trying to, quote unquote, balance the ticket. I think he doesn't want to. I'm going to be very, very blunt with you folks. I'm going to be very, very blunt right now. So take a seat, take a deep breath. I think Mr. Shapiro does not want two white men from Philadelphia on a statewide ticket. Sorry, but I think that's part of it. I think he also probably thinks that Mr. Davis is a very good man, and good for him. He should think that. You shouldn't make him a running mate if you don't think he's a good guy. So I think there's part of that too, because I'm not going to cast aspersions on Mr. Davis. I don't think he's the best choice, but I do think that Mr. Shapiro wants to try to balance the ticket. Mr. Davis is a man of color. He is an duly elected state representative twice. He has served in the legislature. He's familiar with the issues. He seems a very good, affable, decent, friendly human being. He is a big D member of the Democratic Party, not particularly as progressive as I would like, but a member of the Democratic Party, and he is from the western part of the state, again, the Allegheny, Pittsburgh area. So I think that Mr. Shapiro is trying to, quote unquote, what we call on the insider, inside baseball sort of stuff, balance the ticket. So let me turn it back to you, Randall.
I absolutely agree with that, Jeff, that's the main reason he picked. Not just because he's a man of color, but the main reason
the geography.
The main reason is to balance the ticket because we know how Pennsylvania politics are.
Right.
And we've lost too many elections on a statewide level because of that reason. The ticket was not balanced between East and West.
Right.
So I totally agree with you on that.
And I want to give a little shout out here from my home turf. There's just a hair, I think the last, I should just Google it and I'll tell you. But the last time I looked, there was just shy. I'm trying to look it up now. Population of the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. This is real exciting radio while I Google things. Oh, I did it wrong. I'm sorry. There's just shy of 800,000 people here in the Lehigh Valley. I think the last time I looked it up, it was in the 760, 780 range. Pennsylvania politics needs to take a different look at this Commonwealth. Not all of the voters, especially the Democratic Party, by the way, not all of the Democrats are in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. There's a bloody good number of them right here in the Lehigh Valley and the Mahoning Valley and in the valley. I'm not sure what you call that valley, by the way, in the Scranton between in the 81 corridor there between Hazleton to Wilkesboro to Scranton. Not everything that happens in the Democratic Party has to be signed off by Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. You know, there's the rest of us are out here too. And it doesn't make the candidates from those two areas bad candidates. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't mean that they're not the best choice. But there are other sections of this Commonwealth where there are sizable, measurable, dare I say, large pockets of Democrats. And I'm living in one. But nobody ever seems to balance the ticket with a candidate from the Lehigh Valley or Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, or Erie, for that matter, which went blue in 2020. So I kind of hijacked your point, Randall, but hey, it's not just the two cities. We're here too. Go ahead, sir.
And it's not just Philadelphia City or Pittsburgh City.
It's the areas around it as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Here in Delaware County in 2019, the two county council members that were up for election, two incumbents against two Democrats, and all the row offices, sheriff, controller, list goes down. We swept in 2019. And that broke up 150-year plus Republican machine that had ruled Delaware County my whole life. And then in the 2019 election, we took the other three seats on county council, and we took the other row offices. And here we are back at like 2017 to get our county sheriff, our county register of wills, our county controller, and two council people reelected this coming November. So, and Delaware County was one of the big pluses of votes that came in November of 2020 for Joe Biden. That, considering all the millions of votes voted in that election, was one of the big reasons Joe Biden beat Trump in 2020. So I just, like I said, I'm going to vote in the primary no matter what for Biden. But
I just want to say real quick, I finally looked it up the right way. I looked it up. I did put this in the comments on our Facebook feed, but I will say it now out loud. I used the fancy Google machine, and my search was population of the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. The most recent number that seems to pop up is from 2019, which is at least 2.5 years ago, but still 844,000 people here in the Lehigh Valley. So I have to now change my own factoid 844,000. So yes, Philadelphia is the predominant pocket of Democratic voters in the Commonwealth, followed by the Allegheny County area, which is Pittsburgh. But hey, by the way, kids, 800, just shy of 850,000 people here, and it's probably surpassed 850,000 in the last 3 years. 850,000 people in the Lehigh Valley. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are not the only pockets of Democratic voters. We are here too.
No, and as you know, as the decade when I became involved in politics and got first elected back in '77 as Democratic committee here in Delaware County, the registration was 3-1 Republicans to Democrats. And then as the decade went on, it went 2-1. And then as it went on in the 21st century, it became 1-1. And now there's more registered Democrats here in Delaware County than there are Republicans. Delaware County is small, as a small county here in southeast Pennsylvania. But I know we have close to 900,000 just in this small county. You've got Chester County, you've got Montgomery County, that are, you know, essentially all turned blue. So it's not just Philadelphia anymore. Probably if you add up all the populations in the suburban counties around Philadelphia here in Southeast PA, we've got actually combined more population than Philadelphia County does. So yes, it's not just Pittsburgh City or Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. It's what's transpired in the suburbs of those cities, of going from vast, predominantly white suburbs to diverse suburbs of racial, of ethnicity, of education levels. So yes, and I'm well aware of what goes on up in Lehigh County, which is good. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying there's a lot of us here too, and I do think that the pendulums, the scales of Democratic politics are not just reserved for Allegheny and Philadelphia. We are here too, and it is it's time for the Lehigh Valley, it's time for Lackawanna, Luzerne, and Erie, the other population centers of this state. And again, they're not, 850,000 people here is nothing to sneeze at. It's time for us to throw our weight around a little bit and start not pushing around, but it's time to start throwing ourselves around a little bit at a state, within the state party, to make better decisions, to run better, to be a better party. It's why I'm running to be part of it, is to make a better party, and then better candidates, and then better successes in elections. And that's not everything in the world comes from Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. I have strong Democratic friends in both areas, and I love them to death, and they might love me, and they're important, and we need them, no question. But there's life outside of those two areas as far as the Democratic Party is concerned. That's all I'm trying to say. It's about, and I can understand, this was born out of a question about Mr. Shapiro. I perfectly understand why he would want to balance the ticket. It makes sense. You see presidential candidates do this all the time. If you have if a party nominee is from this particular state, they usually don't pick someone else from that same state. They pick them from a different geographical area of the country, or they pick them from an area that their particular party doesn't always do well in, but that particular person that they're picking as a running mate is very popular there. So there is, this happens all over the place, the same way that in lesser, I shouldn't say lesser, but in different circumstances, a state rep might make sure that they have local offices all around the district because the district is different in different areas. And those district offices are staffed by local people because they know the neighborhoods all the way down to the neighborhoods. They know the neighborhoods better. So this happens all through politics. But that's what we get to decide as Democrats in a primary. Do we believe Mr. Davis is the best choice? Do we believe Brian Sims is the best choice? That's up to us. That's not something the party should be shoving down our throats. And the party had no business, none, making an endorsement in this race. I have no problem with the party making endorsements in races. The party making an endorsement in the race for governor was a given. It was a natural. Mr. Shapiro is the only serious candidate. He's the only one that can win. He's the only one that can perform for the party, and so on and so on. I got no problem with that. But they didn't have a real right. And so many of them believe it's their duty. This is why we exist, to make endorsements. No, that's why you have a primary. If you did not want to have a primary, then Mr. Davis, Mr. Sims, and Ray Sosa, for that matter, should have sat down with the party leadership over a nice dinner and laid all their cards out on the table and said, here's the money I can raise. Here's what I plan to do if elected. Here's where my sources of support are coming from. Here's my path to victory. Here's where I can pull the votes and win this general election. And if Mr. Sosa's cards aren't as good as Brian's, then he should step aside. And if Mr. Davis's aren't as good as Brian's, he should step aside. And if Brian's aren't as good as Mr. Davis, then Brian should step aside. But we don't do that. We don't do that. We say that we support open primaries, and then the party shoves an endorsement down your throat. Well, which is it? Either you want a primary or you don't. Either we have open primaries or we don't. And if you don't want to have an open primary, then get these folks in a room and talk it out and avoid the primary in the first place. And the money that has to get spent for it and the advertising and the literature, and let's go on to the general election and win. What do you think, Randall?
I think you're absolutely correct, Jeff.
And let me say, Randall.
And our you know, for many people out there that do not know, at least in Democratic bylaws by county,
Right.
Local committee, well, they're automatically on county committee.
Right.
And our county convention's come up here in a week or two, and I'm going to stand up and suggest that for lieutenant governor, it be an open primary, and try and get that passed by a majority of all the local committees that comprise the county Democratic Committee. So I absolutely 100% agree with you on that.
Randall, we're fortunate he's still listening, but he's checking into a hotel and trying to relax for the night. And that's why he left us, because he pulled up to the hotel and had to go in. But I did text him in the back from your question about petitions in York County. And he did text me back and say, yes, the Delaware County Democrats are fully ignoring him. One of the counties where, and that is one county where it's happening quite aggressively, that if you can aggressively ignore someone, that's happening in Delaware. So your home county is aggressively, Brian's word, aggressively ignoring him. So that's why I said yesterday when I drove my wife out and went to sign petitions, I absolutely refused to sign the endorsed candidate from Pittsburgh, his petition. And I told my wife, please do not sign that. And she took my advice, like she usually does, because she knows I'm involved and she doesn't have the time to be involved, working 2 jobs. So yes, I know exactly that is true. And it just
it just irks me that.
Well, I have had this discussion with a lot of folks, and they seem to think that somehow I'm advocating for, the 19, well, really back into the 1800s, really, but, sort of the 1920s, 30s, 40s Chicago style, white guys in fedoras in a closed room smoking cigars, deciding who all the candidates are going to be. It's really not exactly what I'm talking about. I do think the party does not do enough to spare itself primaries where it could. There is technically a primary for governor here in the Commonwealth, but you wouldn't know it. I don't think there's anything wrong, but especially these races like mayors and council people, school board members, state rep, state senate, and even sometimes higher. When you see a very early debate in a season, if any of you have watched the Republican debates on PCN here in the Commonwealth, gosh, there's got to be a dozen of them running for governor, and I think there's 6 of them running for the Senate. How many Democrats ran for president in 2020? For the 2020 election when President Biden was elected. At one point, there were 22 of them. And only about 5 of them were serious and viable. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting in a room with your party leadership as a collaborative discussion, a collaborative effort, and saying, look, here's the 3 candidates. Who's got the best fundraising path? Who's got the best path to victory? Who's got the most support from our core constituencies? And then the party and these candidates looking at each other with an honest eye and saying, you know what? You need to be our nominee. We need to not have a primary here. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I truly don't. And if they can't come to an agreement, then shake hands, hug it out, and go out and campaign. I just don't think there's anything wrong with that. Am I missing something? Am I wrong somewhere?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the state elections that we've lost here in PA for the last couple of decades.
Too many.
Too many.
Too damn many.
The main reason is there's too many candidates running for state office. All the candidates running for that specific state office spend millions of dollars collectively to try and win our party's primary, and then they're left in the dirt.
And here,
for not having any money to go against the Republicans in the general election.
Here's the other thing, Randall, that I think is happening way too often. I'd be curious if you agree with me. And again, after Randall clears the line, we can only take one call at a time. The phone line will stay open for the rest of the program. We're going to try to take it at 8 o'clock. Program goes to about 8. The phone line will be open. Call. You heard Judy call. Randall always calls. It's safe. Nobody gets hurt. It's pretty easy to call and talk to me. But here's something I think we don't do enough of, Randall. I wonder if you agree with me. I think we encourage entirely too many people to run for office instead of a party position first, or party positions instead of ever running for office. Let's just be blunt about it. Some folks do not have the demeanor or the experience or the personality to run for public office, but they do have the perfect personality and experience and knowledge of current events and knowledge of policy and history to be key players, power people, deciders inside our party. What do you think of that?
You're absolutely correct. And I'm going to change the subject here real quick.
Please do.
A side issue real quick. You're running for state committee, correct?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
And so you're out trying to get
I have to let me say this real quick.
Democratic signatures on your petition today.
Yeah, but let me just color that in a little bit. So Kristen and I were both out to be elected to get, we only need 10 signatures to be on the ballot as precinct committee person for right here, Lower Saucon, District 1.
Right.
That will make us part of the county committee, voting members actually, of the Northampton County Democratic Committee as well. That said, given what we had to go through today for a couple of hours to get 4 signatures, and I would need a minimum of 100, and she as well, because she may run as well, to run for state committee. Wow. This is going to be not a lot of fun. And we're bringing the conversation around to where we started about petitions, but
and I'm pretty sure that
we averaged about a signature an hour today.
Did you guys use a street list? Did you use a street list when you went out?
We have access to the party software to try to do that. Yes. And we each made.
I'm old school and use a street list from the last election.
Yeah, we can get that too, but we're getting inside baseball here.
It shows who Democrats are. It shows who Republicans are. It shows who independents and nonpartisans are.
Yeah, we're getting.
And when all the years I've gone out for petitions, I've looked at my street list and I said, "Oh my gosh, this house has 4. This house has 5 Democratic votes in it."
Yeah.
I always make it. I'm going to see them first because I'm going to get at least one or 2 people are going to be home in that household when you're not. So I just throw that out at you.
Well, that's something. That's definitely something to think about. Thank you. But I derailed you. I think you wanted to change the topic. So
you were talking about state committee.
Yes, sir.
Do your county gain any numbers of more state committee?
I think
between the 2010 and the 2020 census.
We should, by all rights, gain some representation from this last census. Again, when you look at the population trends of Lehigh and Northampton County, which make up the Lehigh Valley, Lehigh and Northampton County, even at some of the darkest economic times in the Commonwealth, late 70s, 80s, 90s, the population of the Lehigh Valley continues to steadily grow. Right now in the Lehigh Valley, you can sell a home in about 4 days, and you can sell it for as much as 20% over what you're asking for it. People are climbing over themselves to move to the Lehigh Valley. So yes, I do not know. I shouldn't say yes. Let me back up. I do not know if Northampton County will gain any state committee representation or if Lehigh will, but I know our populations continue to grow. So we should. And considering that the state Senate and state rep new redistricting maps have not been fully decided on or fully represented or decided on, I guess is the best way to put it. Those are still in court. Should have a decision on those soon, I would hope. I suppose there's a chance that the allocation of votes across the Commonwealth could still change. But do I know for a fact it will change? I do not. Should it? At least in theory, yes, because there's more of us here every damn year. So yeah, it should. And if state party is going to maintain the same level of committee people, then that would mean we would be taking somebody else's committee person. But yeah, I kind of can and cannot answer your question all at the same time. I do not know any of it for sure, but at least in a logical thought progression, it would make sense that we would gain some. Yes. If that makes sense to you, any of that.
No, it makes total sense, Jeff. Delaware County, I think we have 19 state committee votes because of our population of being almost 900,000 for just our small county. And so, and the thing is, come the primary, when you've got to go to the lower ballot.
Yep.
A lot of Democrats will not spend the time. Number one, they don't know who these people are.
Right. And a lot of folks don't go through the work of it. They just get appointed later when no one gets elected to it. But, you know, we're trying to do it the right way. We're trying to get on the ballot and get elected the way you're supposed to go through the process. And
we've never had that problem here in Delaware County for decades. We've always had more people running for state committee than there are state committee positions. So,
right. Hey, listen, I want to change. I'll have to get into this myself, I guess. Let me clear the line, sir, just on the off chance that some other person should call. On the crazy thought that someone else should call. But listen, you're the best, man. I hope everybody.
If nobody calls you, call me back.
Yeah, you're gonna make me call you. Yeah. Listen, as always, you got
my number.
You let us. Please continue to let us know about what's happening down there as you guys get into your. As the petitions continue and your reorganization and meeting will be coming up and all that fun stuff.
Because
I'd like to hear about it.
Because the state house and the state Senate districts have not been finalized yet.
Right.
Yeah, we got to do petition drive after.
Yeah.
Petition drive.
Well, that's the thing. We're Kristen.
For my Democratic state rep and my Democratic state senator.
Yeah, Kristen.
So,
we're going to be going out for.
That's going to be hard to get people out a second time to get petitions filled. Yeah,
it's getting confusing for folks, and that's the other thing. You're talking about multiple petition seasons, and this is not the way it should have been done. I kind of understand the idea of it. Like, okay, we've this congressional map is set. Okay, go get them. But I still think it would have probably been better if all the petitions had been held until all of the maps were settled. But that's just me. Now you have multiple petition signings. I mean, Kristen and I are going to end up going out so we went out today for ourselves and for Congresswoman Wild. We'll end up having to go out again for ourselves for state committee and for our local state rep candidate. It's going to be, and again, it's the good and bad of petitions. In some ways, it's really excellent because you do knock doors, you meet people, you have conversations with people, and these signings are not just quick minute or two here and there. They're really good. I mean, you really get to meet people and have a nice chat. And the folks that we met today, who signed for us, and we met their dog, and I mean, it was great. I mean, it was really fun. It was a lovely, lovely conversation, and we got to tell them, about what we're doing and Saucon Democrats and so on. And it's great. It was great. It was lovely, but it is a lot of work, and it does, I guess it separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, but whatever, we'll get to that at a different time. But thank you, my friend. I want to get into one more topic. We'll leave the phone line open, and I will talk to you next week. All right. And as always, you better stay safe down there.
I'm working on my 10 signatures still to run,
Good.
committee again.
Good stuff. Excellent.
But I just want to give you one last piece of advice.
Yes, sir.
That is a street list
Oh, okay.
which comes from the county that has the legal name of the person, how they sign their name.
Right,
Okay.
right.
My wife, for example, uses her maiden name as her middle name.
Okay. Yeah.
But she doesn't use that normally.
Right.
I have to always point out to her, sign petitions, you've got to use your former last name as your middle name.
It's how it appears on your voter registration is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. And
Yep.
That's where when it comes out from the county, and it gets copied by your county Democratic Party and disseminated down to people on the bottom. I would say if you want, you only need 10 signatures to run for precinct committee.
Right, right.
I would say get 12 or 13.
Yeah,
So there's absolutely no mistake that you get actual 10 signatures. You follow me?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. We're shooting for 20. We're trying to double it. So yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you, Jeff.
You got it. Thank you, my friend. Hey, stay safe as always. All right. You stay healthy.
You too.
All right. Thanks,
Bye,
my
bro.
friend. That's Randall. He's the best. Great friend of the show. 2 phone calls tonight, huh? How awesome is that? Sweet stuff. Phone line is open. We'll be with you for about 15 more minutes to the 8 o'clock hour here Eastern time, wherever you might be on Facebook. That Other Side of Information is our home group Facebook page. I'm way late and overdue for a show reset. I usually do them at the top and bottom of every hour, but I'm a little late because of our guests and our excellent phone calls tonight and so on, and our varied topics. That Other Side of Information on Facebook. Also, if you have missed any of tonight's program, That Other Side of Information on YouTube, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information. You can find us on Instagram. I have been posting show links and show announcements on Twitter. We are also, and of course, if you want to become, I should be doing show announcements on TikTok, and I haven't been. I didn't today. Actually, I have been doing them, and I forgot today because I got in so late from petitions. I forgot about my TikTok announcement. Maybe I'll do one after the fact and tell people to get over to YouTube. If you want to become a financial subscriber and supporter of the program, patreon.com. And again, those subscription levels are not hundreds and thousands. You're literally $1, $5, $10. All we do is take that money and put it into to support the show, equipment, lighting, and things like that. And I think that basically covers all the ways you can reach us. Their phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The phone line is open. We have heard from Judy and from Randall tonight, and the phone line is now open for you out there in around the globe and across the country, in Facebook land, on Hot 101 land, and in TCP land. You can call us right now, 267-227-9189. Last topic that I want to bring up before the end of the night, especially if we don't get any additional phone calls, I want to bring this up. I drive a lot for my job, my full-time job. I wish this was my full-time job. If I had my way, I'd be with you 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And by the way, it's your phone calls that are going to drive that. And the Wednesday show, by the way, the Wednesday evening show will start as soon as I can clear up some scheduling things. There's also a possibility that the Wednesday show might just be a Facebook only and not a radio vehicle, but there's a scheduling weird thing happening at 101. I thought Wednesdays were open, but now I'm not so sure. And I will never push another DJ off the air for myself. That's selfish. We're a family at 101. I would never do such a thing. The music guys are so uniquely talented. They really are. And such great guys. But let me bring this up before we end the program. My job, my full-time job, my paying job, requires me to drive a lot. And on Thursday, I was I covered almost 2/3 of the state just on Thursday. If you are familiar with Pennsylvania at all, you'll know the towns I'm about to name. If you're not, when you get stupid bored later, you could look them up. But I left my home in a company truck. So I left the Saucon Valley and went to a little town called Orbisonia. It's 3 hours from here. I then went 45 minutes northeast of there to a town called Lewistown. Cute little town. Never been there before. In fact, I was never to Orbisonia, but then again, it's really a village. I mean, it was one street, maybe 10 buildings. I then went to Clearfield. From Lewistown, it was 2 full hours to Clearfield, Pennsylvania. I then went from Clearfield 4 hours to West Grove, PA, and then another 2 hours from West Grove back home. Why do I tell you all this? Well, I saw something very, very interesting on my travels, because politics and this radio show is never out of my brain. I paid attention to the places that I had never seen before. And I saw some very, very interesting things as far as who had campaign signs out, where the local support seemed to be, how many Trump flags did I see, and things like that. I paid attention to the infrastructure. How good were the roads that I was driving on? And by the way, overwhelmingly, they were fantastic. I think the infrastructure in Pennsylvania is very underrated. Is it up to par? No, but it is. But the general condition of it is very underrated. I pay attention to the scenery. Sometimes you're driving that many hours, you just tend to look around and take in the beauty of this Commonwealth. And it is a very, very beautiful place. I was up in the mountains. I drove through farmland, streams, rivers, you name it. It's very beautiful. The one thing that really jumped out at me was the differences in gas prices. There's a lot of talk about inflation lately. I have made the argument through our group, That Other Side of Information. I've made the argument to you on this program that the current inflation, in air quotes, is not inflation at all. That it is price gouging. How is it that the price of a gallon of gas immediately shot up 10, 20, 30, 50 cents a gallon on the very first day that there was shooting between Russia and Ukraine? The gas in the big holding tanks at the gas stations that I go to, that suddenly got more expensive. Not the gas that is yet to be drilled or refined from Russia, but the stuff that's already in the tank at my gas station suddenly got more expensive. If the shooting stopped tomorrow, would the gas in those holding tanks at my local gas station suddenly get cheaper? I saw gas prices that ranged from $3.63 a gallon all the way to $4.87 a gallon in my travels on Thursday. If you don't think that there is price gouging going on in this Commonwealth, then you are absolutely unplugged and tone deaf to what is going on. The extent to which the United States subsidizes the fossil fuel industry, and the extent to which the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, $3.2 billion a year, subsidizes the fossil fuel industry. Gas should be about $1.50 at worst. About $1.50 a gallon. These fossil fuel giants cannot be raking in the planetary record profits that they are and still have to consistently raise prices every time someone sneezes on this planet. This is not inflation. This is not inflation. It is price gouging. Our federal government and state governments, administrations of both parties, because remember, the first stimulus checks went out under Trump. The rich and the big corporations decided that's not your money. It's our money. And we're going to take it back from you. And we're going to take it back through extortive high prices. We're going to rip that wealth from you. You don't get to keep it. When the child tax credit was instituted, suddenly the expenses for things surrounding children got more expensive. This is not inflation. It's highway robbery. It's extortion. It's extraction. It's wealth extraction. The next time your friends, your family, your crazy Uncle Larry at the Thanksgiving table tells you about democratic inflation, I know it's very hard to educate folks like that. You tell them the truth. This is not traditional inflation. Not at all. It is extortion. It is wealth extraction. Period. Now, look, I covered a ridiculous number of miles on Thursday. But no way should I be seeing gas prices inside Pennsylvania from county to county go from have a $1.20 swing in them to go from $3.60 to $4.90. It's extortion. It's price gouging. During the Carter administration, Jimmy Carter, he instituted something called the windfall profits tax. And it meant that corporations who were reporting excessive profits were taxed above a certain level. And I must admit, I probably should have Googled this before the program. I don't remember what that level was. But above a certain dollar amount of net profits, they were taxed 99%. And that's exactly what we need to be doing again now. When ExxonMobil is net profiting $50+ billion every quarter, every financial quarter of a year, when one day the gas you are buying is $2.80 something, $3, maybe even $3.20. The first shot is fired in Ukraine and it goes to $4.80. It's price gouging, folks. It's not inflation. It just isn't. It doesn't even meet the textbook economic definition of inflation. It's price gouging. When President Biden and Democrats passed the child tax credit, and instead of it being a paper mathematical tax credit, they turn it into cash in hand. They took 20+ million children out of poverty. And then suddenly all the expenses that surround being a child get more expensive. Formula, diapers. That's extortion. It's wealth extraction. We're better than this. Please keep that in mind. That is my final topic for tonight. It is 8 p.m. We are going to say goodbye to you for this week. I have a couple guests in the pipeline. I do not have anyone confirmed yet for next week. We will be with you next week. That would be, today's the 6th and 7th, the 13th, March 13th. We will be with you next week. I wish I had like more and more profound stuff to say, but I kind of don't. I guess I'm tapped out. I guess my brain's emptied out, which is probably really good for you. So I do not have a guest booked, written into written in stone as of yet, or written in ink, perhaps we should say. But I do have a couple folks that I'm talking about getting on. And we just need to arrange dates. But have no fear, we will be back with you next week, and we will be live. Again, if you have missed any of tonight's program, YouTube is our best place to go. We are also on Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, and Facebook. All 5 of those are that other side of information. Let me thank everybody around the program today. George, Lynn, April, Lex, Earl, the entire crew at TCP. Let me thank our great callers, 2 callers, Judy, and of course, great friend of the program and becoming a personal friend as well, Randall. Thank you to my best friend and my partner here, Kristen, for being with me for the beginning part of the program. And of course, a big thank you to our guest, Representative Brian Sims. He is also a Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Let me again encourage all of you, and I actually mean this for my Republican friends too, get involved. If you don't like how your party works, then go get involved in it. Become a part of it. Help become a decision maker inside your party. We can do this. We can make a better country. We can do it not just by running for office, but by running for the parties who run the people for office. And I may not agree with nearly anything Republicans do these days, but get involved. If you think your party's gone off the rails, and by the way, it has, then get involved. Take it back. Democracy demands at least 2 functioning political parties. So let's make the other one work again, because there's only one left, and it's this one. It's ours. The Democratic Party is the only fully functioning party left in the country. Republicans don't even have a platform. No leadership, no guidance, no plan, no future. If you're a Republican, if you're a disaffected Republican, and you think your party's just gone bonkers, then get involved in it and take it back and make it sane again. So anyway, thank you for being here. I thanked everybody, and I thank you, our audience, our friends, our family. We couldn't be here without you. For now, that is it for me. We will be back here next week live, and we look forward to seeing you again. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Please have a peaceful week. We will see you next Sunday. Good night.